Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and man, we got a great show for you tonight. One of my favorite ufologists in the world, Paige, is with us, and yes, she is going to bring some serious, awesome research to you tonight, from everything from what's going on today to Roswell and everything in between. And yeah, we're going to have one hell of a show with Katie coming on up. Let's say hello to each and every one of you, as we got Race Fan in the gold medal position, Laura Lobbs with a silver, Brandon Coast with his first bronze medal. Congratulations, Brandon. And here we go. Jimmy Gonzalez, Robert Lamoth, Karen in the Woo Train. Welcome to tonight's show. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Road Flare, Lulu Bell. How you doing? Lulu Bell will be signing autographs after the show. Light up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Here we go, Jennifer Patterson and Castle Dude, Brown Dwarf, and number 17 in your program. He's got 12 goals already this season, starting at left wing from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson, JSCO, Jenny White Bear, much love to both of you. Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Super crazy. Good to see you. Tim Mothman and his goatee and his new hoodie. Welcome back, buddy. How you doing? And we continue on with roll call here as there's Kevin and Chris 716. Good to see you both. Scrolling on down, Flat 6. How you doing? T-Bone, my man. What's happening? Desert Rat, thanks for coming on in. And who else do we got here? Scrolling down. And Time Travel 82. Nice to have you back, my man. And who else do we have here? Richard Elmore, thanks for coming on in. Rich Buddy, good to see you. Chillgasm, good to see you again. David Hayworth is here. David Hayworth will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. This one's for you tonight. I promise you. And Katie's going to try to get to Reno just so she can meet you, because I got to show you off. I have to show you off, Mama Catherine, to Katie. Yes. Thomas Rock, how you doing, my friend? And who else do we have here? Scrolling on down. Matthew Gutka and Aaron Baca. Digger Dog, good to see you. High Destiny Rocks. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Our resident troll, Ashy in Vancouver. How you doing? By the way, my garden is a little frozen, and I need you to kind of move away to get the gnomes out of the way, Ashy. So make sure you get your job done for once, if you don't mind. Sparkles, how you doing? Susan Lawrence over on Facebook. Thank you for coming on in. Cliff Sy, Jeff Swenson, been a while. Good to see you. Hi, Christine Lynn. And who else do we have here? Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. Stu effin' Gerson is here. There he is. Give us a wave, Stu. Paramarv, nice to see you. And who else do we have? Kurt M., thanks for coming on in. Maureen Green and Poncho Zork. It's been a while, Poncho. Where you been hiding? Toe Tag, Cliff Sy again. And Terrible Times. What's going on? Rayfin, thank you for coming on in. And Mennonite Abe, always a pleasure. We'll see you in Reno, my friend. Okay, continuing on here. We have... Come on, don't make me anymore. Paramarv, and we are caught up. Let's get the radio side started. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Katie Paige, UFO researcher and author, is here as we await the roll call. There's Bill WD40 in the Spreaker chat room. He is officially lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You never want to go in rigid. And that's what Bill takes care of, lubing us up. Thank you, beautiful Bill. Very much appreciate your love every night here on the show, my man. And who else is here? Scrolling on down. We are still caught up. Remember, the Super Chat is open. How you doing, Lee the Bee? Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Our shirts, our clothing is much more important than your local garage sale or mowing the lawn. Yes, you can actually wear our clothing out in public. Horns up. Let's rock. From the frigid mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show of UFOs tonight. Katie Paige from Colorado, UFO researcher and author, is with us. And then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton brings us a creepy story from among the missing. Following up with that, the UFO report with Courtney Marcassani. Now, tonight, I had an intro written out, but I'm going off the top of my head with this one because this person is so special, not only to me, but Spaced Out Radio, that, you know, I honestly believe she is one of the top researchers in North America. And when Katie Paige and I first met a few years ago, I just knew that this was somebody, when I first had her on the air, I was so wowed by her knowledge and her compassion for this subject and the people that are involved that I just was like, I got to make friends with this person. I gotta learn what's in her head because she is so knowledgeable and so understanding with this topic and so fluid with the information that she receives from not only sources, but people who have had experiences at hand, that it just made, I felt it was going to make me a better broadcaster in associating with people like her. She is an author. She is MUFON. She is her own researcher. She is somebody who has great credibility in the field. And I love it when she's on Spaced Out Radio, as she is every few times a year. Katie Paige, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can live up to that. That was quite the build-up, but I love your hat. Kind of reminds me of my dude right here with the little peace sign. So, hey, to all you Spaced Out Radio listeners out there, thank you, Dave, for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm all ready with my Red Bull to stay awake. So.
You know where I got this hat was we were coming out of Rachel, Nevada last year after the fan party. And we pulled into this gas station to grab a snack. And they had a bunch of alien things in there. Obviously, last gas station before Rachel, which is another 2 hours away. And I saw this hat, and I was like, and for people on radio who can't see, it's an alien holding a peace sign, and it says 51 since 47, which is Area 51 being out there since 1947. And I just love this hat. It's my favorite hat out there, and I get so many compliments on it. But thank you for pointing it out. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I'm gonna have to pick myself up one of those at the end of the month. I'm headed out to Mount Wilson Ranch, so I'm excited to meet Jeff, the owner out there. That Mount Wilson Ranch. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but interesting the connections between Skinwalker Ranch and Mount Wilson Ranch. That Bob Bigelow owned both of those. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I got to go out and meet Jeff and do some research out there at the end of this month, and so we'll be 20 miles or something away from Rachel. So I'll go get me one, and maybe let's see a purple if they had it. Did they have different colors?
No, this was, believe it or not, this was
That's
the
the
last
last
one.
one.
This was the last one.
Bummer.
I know. But you know what? You just have to check because there may be one better for you.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll wear it next time I'm on.
I appreciate that. Katie, for people who may not understand who you are, because our audience is ever changing, as you know,
Yeah.
how did you get into the UFO field? What intrigues you about this?
Right. Well, I hate to age myself, but it is what it is. I'm representing Zeppelin here. When I was a young girl in the mid to late 70s, we had a lot of unusual experiences on a ranch that was known in UFO folklore as the Clearview Ranch, which I came to find out decades later because I never knew this property was ever investigated. So I had all those memories kind of things that happened to the family that lived out there full time, my sister, my mom, and I, and those questions never went answered. And as you do, you go through life and you put it in the back of your mind. And I don't know, I guess it was the mid 90s or late 90s that the show Ghost Hunters came out, with Grant and Jason and Tango and Steve. And I got hooked on Ghost Hunters. And like so many high strangeness locations, kind of that paranormal stuff happens too. So I got really addicted to the Ghost Hunters, which started bringing up all that old stuff from my childhood, and it got me like wondering what all that was. So I joined MUFON in 2012, came in as a field investigator, and I've been digging on the ranch ever since. And in 2013, I picked up this book right here by Colm Kelleher and George Knapp called Hunt for the Skinwalker, thinking it might have some similarities to what happened out on this Colorado ranch, and started reading about the Colorado ranch. And that's where I first learned that it was ever investigated or researched. And so in this book, it mentioned the 3 PhD investigators that were out there. Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who is a pioneer in the field for both past life regression and hypnosis. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. Unfortunately, we lost him a couple years ago, but he lived in Laramie, Wyoming. So I quickly drove out to see him to get all the original documents on the ranch investigation. And it's just been over a decade of doing a deep dive on everything that was going on out there.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
for you noticing, all of these possibilities that seem to happen at these ranches, whether it's the ranch you're talking about, whether it's Skinwalker, whether it's Bradshaw Ranch or whatever ranch out there. What is it about this phenomena that seems to hang out in ranch type areas? And we're not talking, a small ranch like 10, 20 acres. We're talking
Yeah.
hundreds of acres here.
Right. And what I learned very quickly in getting this research and talking to people and stuff is that what I thought was isolated to one ranch location, which was 60 acres, and it was surrounded by another 80 acres and hundreds of, you can kind of see Pikes Peak off in the distance, but it affected this whole area of Elbert County, so several miles and miles and miles, affected many, many people. This is where Linda Moulton Howe got her start. Actually, she was an investigative journalist out there at the time. And in Elbert County alone, from 75 to 78, there were over 400 cattle mutilations. So Linda really got her start really investigating and reporting on all the mutilations that were happening. And for me, I really came in as a skeptic, and I still have that skeptical side of things, because one thing a lot of these ranches have in common, there's close or nearby military bases. So a question I always had right from the get-go was, how much of this is like secret black access projects going on? I learned very quickly that we had soldiers from Camp Carson on the ranch property. NORAD was aware of what was going on. We had blacked out helicopters flying around all the time. So, that's always been a question of mine, is trying to figure out what was the military and why were they out there in the first place? Were they causing the phenomenon or investigating the phenomenon? And that's still a question I have.
You have become one of the top UFO investigators, I believe, in North America. You have an incredible reputation through MUFON and with other investigators and researchers and private people. You hold your sources very, very
Yeah.
tight to your chest. Why have you had success in reporting and bringing out information on the UFO field?
Well, well, first of all, I believe it's really important to just kind of, for me, it's a passion to find answers, and I stay out of everybody else's business. So I don't get involved in drama and, name calling and putting anybody else down. Like, everybody's doing their part. I think you have to have respect and confidentiality for the people who request it and hold that. And I also think it's really important to be respectful of everybody, and no matter what their experience is, good, bad, otherwise, you need to just listen and be respectful and hear what they have to say. And that's really important to me. And one of the things that I love the most about, what it is we all do as a researchers and investigators is to get to hear from other people out there and hear what they've experienced as well, because it helps to solve, hopefully someday, maybe if we're lucky in our lifetime, what's really going on and get to the bottom of what's going on.
Hmm.
You
And
know?
in your time of doing this, have you ever felt that maybe, just maybe, you're on the right path? Like, where are you going with this? Is this the path that you were supposed to be on at this point? I mean, because it's a confusing path. It's a
Yeah.
path it's a path that gets laughed at. It's a path
Yeah.
that gets made fun of, and it's not a popular path. But yet here you are duking it out to try and bring out what could be one of humanity's greatest stories.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thankfully, since 2014, it's gotten a little more respect, maybe just a little bit. People are, before at the very beginnings of this, I was like, you're not going to believe what I do, but this is what I do. And now I don't do that so much. But yeah, I think, that's, and we know that there's disinformation officers out there like Richard Doty, right? And I've talked to Richard, and one of the things I asked him at Laughlin, I was curious if they knew about the Colorado Ranch property, meaning the Air Force, if they were aware of it out there at the time. And he told me absolutely they were. So I think the waters get muddied, and I don't always trust, I should say, what's being fed to all of us. And I think, you know, all of us out there should take any news story, any information that's coming out, especially when it comes from our I hate to be a distrusting of our government and what, but they've lied to us for decades. So why believe them now? So I always take a grain of salt when I hear some of the things that are going on, because I always question, like, why now? Why are they allowing this information out and not that information? Why are they allowing us to believe this and then they backpedal on it and all that good stuff? But I think overall it's becoming a topic that's more widely accepted and people are more open to it and willing to talk. So I'm glad whistleblowers are coming forward.
I think we're all glad at the way the whistleblowers are being handled, but I mean, there is an ugly side to
Yeah.
ufology right now, and that is the political side that everybody cringes at the minute you say politics or
Yeah.
whatever, and they should, and realistically, they should. I
Hmm.
mean, this subject over the last 4 years, especially, has become so politicized, with the UAP BS that's out there, with the UFOs, with whistleblowers, with everybody looking for disclosure for dollars now, and all these private companies and groups that are jumping up. I mean, it's hard to keep track of. It's hard to pay attention to absolutely everything
Yes.
that is going on because it's moving so fast. How do you stay on top of what is going on?
I rely on those in the field that are on top of it. I mean, I know Melinda Leslie's really good at staying on top of these topics, and there, Steve Bassett's, and all those that are really on that side of things, I really look to them, and I kind of follow what they're doing and what they're writing about, because honestly, I'm really focused on these high strangeness ranches. So I'm glad that there are those in the field that can stay on top of that on a daily basis. Because you're right, Dave, this is changing every day. There's something new in the news about what's going on. So I'm not always the best at following the day-to-day UFO news. I'm just not. I'm so focused on, doing the research and doing the series Beyond Skinwalker on the History Channel. So the episode that the first season, it's episode 3, the Rocky Mountain Ranch. And just last month, we finished 2 more episodes for season 2, which is really cool to work with them again. But what that's allowed me to do is to kind of gain some trust with the local townspeople. So I've been conducting interviews with a lot of the old timers. I just did a really cool interview with a guy well in his 90s that had, mutilations back in the mid and to late 70s, and come to find out he just had a recent mutilation as early as 2014, and then another lady on her ranch just had a mutilation in August of this last year. So even though it's not to the height of the phenomenon that was going on with the mutilations then, but I'm hearing about incidents that are still going on out there to this day. So I'm really kind of focused on, what's happening at these places, and
Well, yeah, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I mean, some of it, there may be some cover-ups going on out there, like I said, but like I mentioned, and so I'm kind of following those leads right now.
Well, it is very interesting on the leads that are coming out, because
Mhm.
there is so much happening, with whistleblowers and information as it's coming out. How do you go about realizing what is good information and what is not? Because a lot of times I'll get questions from the public asking, Dave, there's so much going on. I don't know what to follow or who to follow.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And in doing so, when I went to Dr. Leo Sprinkle's Archive Center, so anybody could go there in Laramie, Wyoming. It's called the Heritage Center, and that's where Dr. Sprinkle housed over 70 some boxes of his 40 plus years of research. So any person could go in and request to have these boxes pulled. And what happened is, when I went to go get the documents on, I got lost in all these boxes of people's letters from around the world that had written to Dr. Sprinkle through the decades. And that's where the Letters of Love and Light book came in, because I thought, well, if I find these letters interesting, I kind of pulled the cool parts out of them. I thought others would too. And I took them and published them in that book. But when you start to do interviews and you're talking to people, and and I would get like a paragraph through the letter, and your BS meter would go up right away. Like, you could sort of just tell. I mean, there's a lot of tells, different body language, just the stories they tell, the consistency. You know what I'm talking about, Dave. You've interviewed a lot of people. So,
That I have.
yeah. So you kind of get a feel for people who are passionate and genuine and had real experiences, and those who are just trying to feed you a line, or, whatever, for whatever reason they might be elaborating or exaggerating. And you get a feel for that pretty quickly, I think, you know. But you
You
still listen with respect, you know.
Oh, very, very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
true. You have to listen with respect. But
Mhm.
for a lot of people out there, they're listening to this story on the news. They're hearing David Grush. They're hearing, Chris Mellon. They're hearing Ross Coulthart speak about this. And, they're hearing a very docile side of what ufology really is. To you, what is ufology? What is the mainstream public missing out on when they think of UFOs?
Wow, I've never been asked that before. I think, what they're missing out on UFOs is not just UFOs. I mean, I truly believe that it's an umbrella of phenomenon, right? Whether it's paranormal, cryptid, all this stuff, it kind of falls under. Even Bob Bigelow was looking for answers for like life after death, and he was really interested in that. And I think it's all kind of under this same umbrella. So what are these silver balls flying around our skies at super high rates of speed? Another thing that I also have come to believe, I think that our human consciousness and our perceptions also play a role in the phenomena itself, the UFO phenomenon. Do you believe that too, Dave?
I believe it's all interconnected.
Yeah, it's all
And
interconnected. So,
I think that in the end, it sounds very easy to say, but when
mhm,
you realize that everything from aliens to ghosts to cryptids to near-death experiences to consciousness and psychic ability, and the religious people may not like this, but even God, it's all connected under one power.
mhm,
And
I agree.
I don't know whether or not we are calling, we call it the phenomenon. I don't
Mhm,
know whether the phenomenon is God or a part of God or whatever, not to sound overly religious, but there seems to be a lot of this that is scaring a lot of people behind the scenes, more so than what is brought through to the public with, oh, we have these UAPs
right,
around.
right, right, right.
Then we pretend that we
Yeah.
don't know what a UAP is.
Right. I prefer UFO personally. But UAP, UFO, whatever you want to call it, I think that's what they're missing, the big picture. It's, we have to stop compartmentalizing all these different phenomena and look at the big picture and what's going on here and our place in the universe and what it all means.
I want to ask you about trends as we have about 2 minutes to go, because you brought up cattle mutilations a while ago. Human mutilations were happening, cattle mutilations were happening, other animal mutilations were happening. But that seems to have died off now. I mean, it seems like everything is cyclical. We'll go through a run of black
Mhm.
triangles and then they'll disappear. Then we'll get the discs, they'll
Mhm.
disappear. Right now, we're in the tic tac era.
Yeah.
Why do you think
Seems
there's these trends?
Yeah, that's a good question. And also these like silver spheres, these balls that are just
Yes.
like, I don't know if they're like little drones or fast, I don't know what they are, these fast movers, but we're seeing a lot of those as well. I don't know. I think, something in doing, I don't know if you know this, Dave. We haven't talked in a little while, but as of January 1st, I have stepped down from being the state director for Colorado MUFON. I graciously passed the torch over to Seth Feinstein, so he is now the Colorado MUFON state director. I just needed to clear some things off my busy plate, and so it's in good hands. But I still am a field investigator. But that being said, being the administrator for the Mars program, which just rolled out, which is exciting. So finally, these are available for the public to go through all these historical documents through the Mars and Project Aquarius. And you can go to MUFON.com to find out more about that. But what I did see is exactly what you're talking about, seeing the trends like in the 70s, which is the decade I love researching the most. We had a lot of like landings and beans and coveralls and wetsuits and emblems on their sleeves and things like that. And is that because of popular culture and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or are they evolving like the rest of us? I don't know what the answer, but you can clearly see that they do go kind of in waves and change. But I think it's just like us. We've advanced, so why wouldn't they continue to do that as well? You know?
Well, I don't know about why they're so much different, I really don't know why
Right.
there is just, so many things, and yet that's what people see, and that's what
Right. Our
people
perception. Yeah, maybe it's our perception. We see what we want to
could
see.
be,
Yeah.
and maybe that they're tuning in on what's public these days and what's the trend, what's the path that everybody's going,
See?
and
They
hey,
want
why
Tic Tacs. Let's give them Tic Tacs. So, I
you
don't
got
know.
that right. Think about the Tic Tac candy there for a second. Could they not get a better advertisement in their product
Right.
than
No
UFOs?
kidding.
And all for free, too. They didn't have to pay a dime. Katie Paige is here, UFO researcher, author, and just one of the greatest, in my opinion, UFO researchers on the planet. We are here talking UFOs tonight. When we return, why is history in ufology still important today? We're going to find out from Katie when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Hi, Guy from Calgary. Hi, lovely and talented Kira.
Hi, Kira.
And the purple-haired pixie Lara. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what I'm going to be doing tomorrow just for you, Lara? I'm going for the first part of my hunting course tomorrow, and I'm going to be rocking my Bigfoot patrol
Awesome.
tomorrow. Pixie Lara made this for me.
Oh, that's great. That is
Yes.
really nice.
I am going to be rocking this tomorrow in my class, my 2-day class, because it is right now outside the studio. It is minus 33 degrees Celsius, which is about minus 42 with wind chill factor. And yeah, American wise, I believe that's about minus 41 Fahrenheit outside right now. Yeah, it is cold.
That Arctic blast is starting up. It's coming down. It's coming down our way.
So, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Pixie Lara, I will do that for you. Thank you, Pocket Reality, for coming on in. And Mark, Steam Train Mark, thank you for letting me know I will be alive tomorrow. See, that's the benefit of having people listen in Australia, is because we're on tomorrow. So that way they can figure out if I'm alive tomorrow or not.
Oh.
See, I'm
you
always
better stay safe out there. My gosh.
Yeah. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Yes. Having fun yet?
It's always fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, everybody, I want you to put May 10th through 12th on your calendar. Why? It's the 3rd annual SOR fan party in Reno, Nevada at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort. Nice. Tickets are $100 for VIP packages. They are $60 for regular package. With the VIP package, you're going to get into the radio show. Actually, everybody gets into the radio show. You're going to get a VIP swag bag. You're going to get into the VIP party where we're trying to convince people like Katie Paige to come join us that weekend and have some fun with us. She was at the first one. She missed last year due to her son graduating, but she's going to be back for this one in Reno. And we're also going to have other special guests there for you to mingle with as well. Science Bob and Lala are going to be there. Melinda Leslie, Lorian Fenton, Geraldine Orozco. Tim Senor is going to be there. Courtney Marcassani, the entire SOR team. Jim Goodall, he's trying to bring Michael Schratt. And if you know Jim has another friend, I can't say who, but Jim has a really close friend who may be coming as well. I'll let you figure that one out. We're trying for Dr. Michael P. Masters. We're going to try for a bunch more people. I'm going to be sending out invites here very, very soon. And we want all of you to go. All you got to do is go to info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com, and you have to book your tickets. Once again, $100 for VIP. And Katie can actually answer this for me in 2 ways. Number one, Katie, you go to a conference. They're not $100 anymore. They're like,
no. I was going to say that's a great deal. Yeah.
But here's the other thing, because you've been a speaker at numerous conferences. How many times have you been to a conference and there's somebody on stage that you want to chat with that weekend, but never get the opportunity to do so?
I know. It's always a bummer.
Every time.
It's like you feel like a stalker waiting in the wings.
See, that's why we do this event. Is because Katie knows how awesome it is to all of a sudden hang out and go for breakfast or dinner or lunch or just chat over a beer beside a slot machine and chat with our Spaced Out Radio listeners.
Yeah.
And, you could get her books there. You could get other people's books, and you get to talk to them one-on-one. And, like Katie, I walked up to them one time, and Tom Whitmore is going to be there, by the way, as well. I walked up to Katie and Tom one day, and they were having breakfast with 2 of our listeners. And it was like, hey, guys, this is great. And that's why we do this party. It isn't for me. It isn't for Spaced Out Radio. We're not doing it to make money. We're doing it specifically for the fans.
Right.
So that way the fans get that opportunity to actually participate and meet the people they hear on this show. So I believe
you
our
make lifelong friendships going to things like that. I mean, there's people that I met the first time around that I see here in your chat, like Kira and stuff. We hung out and, we're friends on Facebook and you just have this connection. So that's how you make these awesome friendships and connections. Love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com. Kathleen Hughes, how are you? Al Garay over on Twitch. Nice to see you. And Desiderated, I never know how to pronounce your name. Hi. Thank you to Mama Catherine and T-Bone for the super chats. Here we go. Here we go with the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Welcome back to the show as Katie Paige is talking UFO history next. Want to remind each and every one of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with author and researcher Katie Paige, as we are going to get into a little bit of the history of ufology here for the next little bit. The reason why is, this new group of UFO research, Katie, has really been focused on since 2004. So we're going back 20 years now since the USS Nimitz incident, where we learned the issues of the Tic Tac incident and everything in between. And it seems like history prior to that is not supposed to exist. And a lot of people in ufology, the newer people in ufology, fail to realize how much more there is to this subject than government interventions with whatever type of craft is out there. How important is learning UFO history?
Well, I just want to say thank goodness for people like David Marler, right? I mean, his National UFO Historical Records Center outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, they just acquired the original APRO documents, which of course are the documents with the original unredacted ranch stuff. So I've been texting with him, chomping at the bit. I need to get there, but he's sorting through and he has so much on his plate, trying to get the funding for the building to house. Because not only does he have APRO, but the original Project Blue Book and NICAP and CUFOS. And it was actually at Dave Marler's. And it's so funny because I know you build me up as this great investigator, but literally it took me months and months to make this connection. And I feel kind of silly about it. And I was literally, when you're filming, you break for lunch. So I was sitting there with Dave Carr and some of the producers for Beyond Skinwalker, and I'm telling them about these two A7D interceptors that were scrambled out of Buckley. Okay. And I FOIA'd and got the report for that crash. So in Dr. Sprinkle's files, it was said that two interceptors were scrambled to A7Ds over Elbert County in pursuit of a UFO. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to look into this and send a FOIA and all that stuff. So turns out it was supposedly an instructor and a student, and they were in two A7Ds. They had 218 of live rounds of ammunition on board. And when I got the report back, a couple suspicious things. It said the instructor misidentified the beacon light of another aircraft, which they never identified. And so the instructor hits the tail of the students and both go down, both pilots eject, both pilots survive. But also in that report, it stated that 8 of the instrumentation panel lights from the instructor pilots went out, which is kind of suspicious, right? But then when I went to David Marler's, I was kind of just researching the 70s, just general, pulling cases from the 1970s to see if I could find anything interesting. And what I came across was on that very same day out of Falcon Bridge, Ontario, up there in Canada, we have a NORAD station. And on November 11th, 1975, they were watching an anomalous object on radar for several hours. It went from 26,000 feet in altitude up to 72,000 feet, just straight up. And not only was it observed on radar, but there were several military personnel that were watching this thing, and it was going 25 to 30 nautical miles from the base. So they have several ground witnesses watching multiple craft in the sky. They have it on radar for several hours. Several civilians see it, and 7 police officers see it. So this is a well-documented case. So they decide, well, maybe we should scramble some jets after this thing. So they scramble 2 F-106 Delta Darts out of Selfridge, Michigan, after these things. But the fact that the one in Elbert County, Colorado, they scrambled 2 jets in Elbert County and 2 out of Selfridge, Michigan on the exact same day. I mean, without the historical research and the data, I would have never made that connection. And so that tells me they're tracking something from Canada clear down to Colorado, right? Maybe several UAPs or UFOs. So that's why historical data is important. And what the coolest part about that whole story was, I think Tom Whitmore was there with me too. It was Tom Whitmore and Dave Marler and I, and we're just kind of doing our research. And Dave says to me, goes, I think I have that, because it says in this report that I found that it made the front cover of National Enquirer. And he goes, I think I have that. And he goes over to his file, and sure enough, I was like, I can't believe you have that. And it says U.S. Air Force scrambles jets after UFO on the front page of the National Enquirer. It's like the only time they admitted doing that. But the fact that it happened the exact same date and year as the one in Colorado just blew my mind. But I didn't make that connection until all those months later. And I was like, duh. So it's kind of funny.
Well, excuse me. One of the things I find interesting, being the Canadian of us two, is how many of these historic craft, whether it's Shag Harbor, whether it's Kecksburg, whether it's this one that you're talking about, how many of them seem to be using a trajectory coming in from Canada into the United States?
Yeah, I know it, right? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And also, on to that point, I think there's something that has to do with, like, they're coming a lot of reports and important historical reports around water. I was just researching a case. His name's Carl Higdon. And if anybody's seen the David Pilates' new film, The UFO Connection, he talks about the Carl Higdon case at the end of that film. And it's in northern Colorado, it goes into Wyoming, in the Medicine Bow National Forest in Wyoming. So he's out elk hunting, and we'll get into that because I have a great elk hunting story. Are you learning to hunt elk?
Well, I'm learning to... Well, let's just put it this way. I'm learning to hunt because I've never, ever had a firearm before.
Oh, okay.
And so I grew up with a fear of guns. My sister was involved in a very tragic shooting accident back in the 80s, and it really scared me.
Yeah.
And long story short, I don't want my son to have my fear.
Oh,
And I went
okay.
and I went hunting a number of times with my friends this past year. Totally off topic.
Yeah.
And I just want I don't know if I'm actually going to shoot anything. I don't know if I actually want to hunt, but I want to feel safe out in the forest. Not only for me, but the people I'm with as well. So I haven't really figured out, because normally I go hunting in the supermarket. Okay. But like when I go fishing, I'm a catch and release kind of fisherman.
Right.
And hunting is still quite finite. That when you pull the trigger, it's over for a life, So I'm just getting over that.
Right. Well, that's a great thing to do, and there's nothing more important than gun safety and learning to do it the right way. So I'm all for that. And I mean, you never know. I too, like you, I would have a hard time killing anything, but maybe sometime we may be in a situation we might have to just survive. So it'd be better to be trained and know how to do it than not. So that's really awesome. But no, I think this Carl Higdon case in the medicine boat, he was out elk hunting, and it was kind of like this interdimensional story where there were 5 elk and they were kind of huddled together. So he picked up his rifle to shoot at one of the elk, and his bullet like hit an invisible wall and it stops and it falls to the ground. And then all of a sudden, these very strange looking ETs come out and float him 5 pills. He swallows one, which kind of blows my mind, kind of like a food. It's a really interesting story, but there's other witnesses of seeing these strange glows over the forest. Long story short, his pickup truck, which he parked, ends up miles away in this bog where you couldn't even drive in. They had to like helicopter and tow this thing out. He ends up going to the hospital. He had some healings, all this stuff. It's a really cool case. But I bring it up because in the Colorado ranch case, I've got to interview some locals, and one of them is an elk hunter, and he goes out in this Elbert County area in the daytime. And what's fascinating, he'll tell me, and this guy's lived there for decades, and he's like, there's certain parts of the forest out there where he will not enter because it's just so eerie. Like he will not even go there in the daytime. But he shared with me, and I'm not going to give up his name, but he did tell me I could share this picture. So this right here, I don't know if you guys could see this.
Explain it for our radio audience.
Okay, so what you're looking at is this is a really credible witness. He is a firefighter, and he was out elk hunting, and he said this happened approximately November of 2021. He's out there daytime sighting, and he sees a red orange glow in the trees. And he said this object was 4 to 5 feet in diameter. It was 6 to 8 feet off the ground, and he said it looked like 2 bundt cake pans, one on top of the other. One was spinning clockwise, the other was spinning counterclockwise, and he's watching this thing very close, like no sound. And he turns for a second, he looks back, and the thing's gone, just disappeared. The red glow was there for a little while, but that thing was gone. And where did it go? He didn't see it take off. Yeah, so really cool. Really cool.
Can you hold that up for a second, please?
Yeah. Yes.
Hold on. Sorry to our radio audience. I want to make sure that okay. That I'm going to tell you something very, very weird.
Okay.
That is extremely close to what I saw this summer 30 yards away from me.
No way.
Except mine was brown.
Really? And he described this as very metallic, shiny with red glow. Did yours have a glow to it?
No, it was like a matte brown color. You could see the sun shining off of it.
Wow.
And there were beings there. And walking through the trees. And when I went back to where I'd seen the craft, it was gone.
And you didn't see it take off, or no?
It was 30 yards away. We would have heard it. We would have.
How many beings, and what did they look like?
I didn't see the beings. Other people did. They were gray. They were tall gray.
Wow. Let's see. Was Katie's 3 big issues moving forward? I think we need to underline we're in a new place. Cheers, people. Much love in the new year. 3 big issues moving forward. I think for me, it's still that questioning. I've always suspected, and there's reasons for me to suspect through the documents that I pulled on the ranch, that there were some nefarious things going on out there, black access projects. So for me, the three big issues of moving forward is the biggest issue is to be careful where I'm digging. And I suppose if I get too close to a truth that they don't want exposed, I'll hear about it somehow. I'll be visited by, the notorious men in black. Hey, you're getting a little too close to the truth here. Because I do believe there's still a cover up going on what kind of projects they were doing. I think it affected hundreds, if not thousands of people, and they don't want that exposed.
Or you get a very infamous text message.
Yeah. Have you gotten one of those, Dave?
Maybe last weekend.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm not talking about that one.
Yeah. It's interesting because I do think there's still a very active disinformation narrative going on. And you hear people talk about this, false flag, false alien invasion. I actually just recently interviewed somebody that was telling me, or maybe I had him on my show. Who was that? Oh, I remember. It was Bob Spearing was telling me about Elon Musk and the Starlinks and how they're like blanketing our planet and how these potentially could be used to simulate some sort of false flag, So I'm like, oh, never thought of that before, So
yeah, I got told something a little bit different, that we're not going to have a false flag.
Okay, good.
And that in about, what year are we? 2024? About a dozen years from now. Okay. I had someone I'm going to just put it this way. Okay. And I haven't even said this to my audience yet. I had someone very much in the know. I had a conversation with them recently. And I asked them the question that I've been asking for 3 years now. Why now? Because this has never made sense why it's all come out after 70 years of cover up.
Right.
And this person said to me point blank, he's like, the reason why is because, and putting it in English terms, the phone call was answered.
Oh.
And they gave a date of when they are coming, and by my calculations, it's about 11 to 12 years from now, so 2035 to 2036 is when they are allegedly supposed to be here, and they will not be leaving.
Oh, and did you get any hints as to whether they're gonna let us stay too?
They don't know.
They don't
And
know.
that's the fear that they are prepping for. That's part of the conversations that I assume are behind the scenes, so that we're not allowed to hear.
Okay.
That's just my speculation. It's my speculation. Okay.
See, and I heard it was gonna be sooner than that. When I was at Contact in the Desert, there was like rumors of somewhere even as near as 2 to 3 years out. So I don't know.
I originally heard that it was supposed to be 2027.
Right.
Okay. But that's the early date.
Okay.
Originally I heard there was a 10 to 12 year window starting in 2025.
Okay.
Okay. The earliest could have been 2025 to 2027, but it looks like it's a little bit closer than that. Okay. Now, please take that information with a grain of salt.
Right.
Okay. Because there is, don't believe me on that. All right. Like, this is just what I am assuming and putting together. What I like to do is I like to read between the lines in conversations. Okay. And try and paste things together. That's my assumption that's the dates or the years that we could be happening. But this person was adamant that the phone call had been answered, and on the other end, it was like, "Hey, this is Ock from Zeta Reticuli, and we're on our way, and when we arrive, okay, we're hanging out for a while."
Huh.
Okay, so at least that's what I think. That's
You'd think
my
they could get here a lot faster than that. I mean, if
well,
they're already here, right?
yes,
I
but
mean,
how many are here? Like, I
yeah,
don't think we're talking a few scout ships.
yeah, okay,
Like when we hear about these mother craft that are coming in that are miles upon miles upon miles long, that could hold tens of thousands of ETs at a time, I think that's what we're talking about.
right. Hopefully, they bring their own resources, food and water and whatnot. I don't want to be
And
their
beer.
dinner
I
and
want to know what
beer.
their beer is like. You know,
Bring pizza.
yeah. What's alien
Gotta make
pizza
this.
taste like? Okay, but getting back, we got 4 minutes to go here. Getting back to the history of
Right,
everything.
right, right.
You've done a lot of study on Roswell. You've done a lot of
Yeah.
studies on cases in the mid 20th century. I mean, these are still extremely important to today. Why do we need to still focus on something that happened 73 years ago?
Well, that's where it began, number 1. I mean, we can trace metamaterials and articles, and there's so much information, and, oh, I wish I could find it really quickly. But you can go back and pull some of these historical articles. Like I just found one recently on this metamaterial, and there's a picture of it. And the great thing about historical documents, a lot of these newspaper articles, they give names, and it's not too late, even for the 70s. I mean, granted, they're in their 80s and 90s, but a lot of these people are still alive. And if they had something really incredible happen to them, guess what? They're going to tell their kids, and the stories and the information gets passed down from generation to generation, just like a lot of good information does. So I just still think there's evidence to be found and leads to uncover, just like with the Roswell case. And we could talk a little bit about that after the break, because it's kind of a long story. And I just today, we talked briefly earlier, I got a email through my website of somebody who has more information on that. So even 1947, there's still connections that have been passed down where you can still pull leads and find new information. So it's so important that it doesn't get lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's also the fact too, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there's still a lot of information that has been left out that
Yes.
they haven't been upfront about.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And
Okay, so
yeah.
what do you want to know? Like, what about Roswell still kind of, you know, is an itch to you that needs to be scratched?
Well, there was a rumor that this General Arthur Exon, there was rumored that one of the Roswell bodies ended up in a mortuary outfit in Denver. And that came across my desk, my desk, my research desk years ago, pre-COVID. And it's a really, really compelling uh, case that there was a mortician here in Denver, and there was a vault that he didn't think there was a body stored in it, that was stored where they put all the extra chairs, for the services. And it sat there for a very long time, more than 10 years. And so he inquired about it, and he said, the owner of the mortuary said, oh, there's a hold on this body, a court hold by a federal judge. So it's really compelling. And he pulls his caper, and actually his document is at the Roswell Museum in New Mexico. And I've talked to Don Schmidt about this case, but in a nutshell, there's a Eisenhower connection, because President Eisenhower's wife, Mamie, is from Denver, and she lived 2 doors down from this federal judge that had a hold on this body. There's a Fitzsimmons Lowry connection. There's a Mason connection, and he gets curious about this body. He didn't believe in aliens or UFOs or anything like that, but he was curious what's in the vault, and so he opens it up. And he didn't think alien at the time, but he thought a severely hydrocephalic child. But we got to interview him, and to say he literally had like this PTSD response as we're interviewing him. We had the cameras going and everything, and he he was mortified that there was a child-sized body in this coffin at all. It was covered in 7 layers of formaldehyde cloth all the visceral was completely removed. The genitals were completely cut out. He said it had orifices for ears, this heavy, heavy brow. And he didn't think alien at the time. He thought severely hydrocephalic child or something like that. It wasn't until he and his wife were hang gliding in Roswell and they happened to hear of the rumor of General Brigadier Arthur Exxon that one of the bodies was taken to a mortuary outfit in Denver, that all the bells and whistles went off. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's what it was. So,
Katie, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to
Mhm.
continue the importance of Roswell and the history of it when we return with Katie Paige, UFO author and researcher out of Colorado. We will be right back with more UFO information. Hey, if you see the lights, run the other way. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. All right. Sweet Bobby G, how you doing, buddy? And who else has jumped on in here? I think we're caught up. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to put you in the green room. We got about 5.5 minutes, okay?
All right.
Be right back. Not gonna lie, it is cold out. It is very cold. Courtney, you're an hour early. Do you want to join in? Courtney, do you want to join in? Always does, Deb. Always does. Let's oh no, Courtney's gonna come back in an hour. Hi, Nikki in Seattle. How are you? Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got frostbite in your beard. Katie, you gotta unmute yourself. River Dog, how you doing? There you go. It's cold out. I'm not gonna lie, it is cold out. Eli McGinnis, how are you, my man? Thanks for coming on in. And it's all good. Big thank you tonight to Deb, Major Lee, Pam Harris, Pix, W. Decker, Mama Catherine, and T-Bone for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support of everybody out there. And don't forget, you can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. We got nice stuff that you're actually going to want to wear out in public. And from there, remember, coming on up, thank you again, Major Lee, for another great super chat. Remember, May 10th through 12th, Reno, Nevada, the 3rd annual fan party. Get your tickets now at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com. And we want to see you in Reno for our great event. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Kantakoi. Kantakoi is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio, Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. UFO history continuing with researcher and author Katie Paige, all the way from beautiful Colorado, hanging on out with us. And right before the break, Katie, you were talking about information you had found out about the Roswell case.
Right. I mean, as fate would have it, I kind of got swept back into the high strangeness ranch research, and COVID shut down all the archive centers at the Eisenhower Center. So I have a whole list highlighted of more boxes I need to pull and more documents I'm searching for. But then, as it kind of steered me back to the high strangeness ranch research, but I do want to get back to that Roswell research because, I think there is a connection there. And like I said, just before the break here, somebody reached out via my website today, and her dad was friends with General Arthur Exxon. So we are scheduled to have a interview this weekend. So I can't wait to see what she knows, and maybe together we can get some more answers on that. So like I said, even though this is so many years ago, there's still avenues and things historically that you can go down and open up, and take a look and see what you find.
We were talking about the importance of Roswell and historic cases that are still out there. And there's still so much covered up information
Yeah.
that I think still needs to be released. I mean, we
Yeah.
hear about all of these crash retrievals, for instance, never mind just Roswell or Aztec or
Mhm.
Shag Harbor or wherever. But I mean, these are cases that most people have never even heard of
Right.
that are out there. I mean, that's all part of the history and the
Right.
cover up that is going
Right.
on. I mean, do you buy that all of these crash retrieval sites are out there?
Well, just recently, and again, I'm not going to disclose my source, but had a really great interview with somebody who reached out to me who was a Green Beret in the Army and served in the Vietnam War. And he says he guarded a downed craft and got a very close look at it, his team of 7. And so there may be some evidence that maybe, I mean, fingers crossed, something comes of this. But it's talking with people like him, and thank you to all those servicemen and women who have served so wonderfully for all of us. I do appreciate it, and I love talking to whistleblowers like that, because I'm like, why come forward now? And he's like, well, with all this information in the news and towards the later years, I really don't have anything to lose at this point. So, you know, um, it's really fascinating to hear. And what he talked about, he got a good look at this craft, and he said it was really cold. It was almost vacant on the inside, with just a few things, but he said the craft was very cold, and I've heard that in other reports too. Um, so
What about radiation? We hear about radiation coming off of craft. Stefan Mikulik is probably one of the
mhm.
more famous cases of radiation poisoning that has happened. I mean, let's face it, if there's a
Yeah.
craft on the ground, are you going up to touch it just in case this radiation is in there?
No, 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 I'm not. And even going back to the ranch, there have been some health risks involved with that, and so I'm cautious about that. You have to be really careful, and also when you open up some of these, like if you're trying to communicate with something, you don't know who or what you're communicating with, so you have to be careful with this topic.
You definitely do
Mhm.
have to, because there is, you know, how can we put it? I guess what I've noticed, and I'm curious if you have too, there is a fine line between what we research and what they are allowing us to see.
Right,
And we still don't know who the they are and what
right,
they are allowing us to see. We're
right,
hoping to get insider information from that, from David Grush and other whistleblowers that are, true to this subject. But I
right,
mean, what are we missing? What
right.
as a researcher, never mind somebody who has a keen interest in this subject, but as a full-blooded researcher, what are we missing in trying to get to the depths of some of these topics, whether it's Roswell or whether it's something newer?
Right. I think that's one thing I like to do is look at, well, first of all, I want to get to this comment that's on the screen. It's hang gliding, and he and his wife were hang gliders, and they would hang glide in different areas of New Mexico. So I don't know specifically where they went, but I just know that that's what they did as a hobby. So that's what I know about that. But so I like to look at one thing that I know Skinwalker Ranch has, Blind Frog Ranch, and Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, and Marley Woods, and the Colorado Ranch. And there's another ranch in Pennsylvania. And also, we'll get into this too a little bit, but there's another gentleman that had a lot of very similar experiences on his property, which was 14 miles away from the ranch in Elbert County. All these locations they're highly magnetic, like they ping the charts of being highly magnetic. The vast majority of them have aquifers and water sources underground, and they have certain minerals and crystals, sandstone and granite and quartz and all this in common. So I like looking at that, and I think that's something people miss, is trying to piece together like why specific areas are having more sightings than others, whether it's military bases that are close by or these different geological or, ley lines or energy vortexes around the globe, really. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at closer.
So do you think then that there are hotbeds of areas where these craft are, say, coming into our environment?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Okay, so what would lead you to that understanding of that happening?
Right. And just like with Beyond Skinwalker, there's a location here in Colorado. I don't know. There there's a bridge really close. It's near Trinidad, Colorado. So it's near the New Mexico Colorado border. Trinidad's right there. Um, and there's a family that had a lot of mutilations there. Well, there's this bridge, and it's like this rural road where it's not heavily traveled or anything, but there's all these car accidents that happen there. So they had their meters looking at the electromagnetism as they're crossing this bridge, and it like spikes way up. And so again, that like, how does that affect humans when we're exposed to certain um, environments that I don't know if it is drawing whatever phenomenon to those locations or if it's allowing us as humans to interact with it and see it better. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say, Dave? Um, but yeah, it's not always good either. Just like these car accidents, I don't know what's happening, or pilots like the Bermuda Triangle, for example. You have your compasses that are spinning, and bad things can happen. So
Yeah, apparently there is an area of a military base just about an hour northwest of me
mhm,
that is like the Bermuda Triangle. And I talked to somebody who was training in that area when he was in the Canadian Armed Forces. And in that area, you cannot use a compass.
right,
And they tell
yeah,
you in that area that you cannot use a compass. And everybody goes in, well, I'm just going to use my compass. And it goes absolutely crazy and
yeah,
gets these troops lost where they have to rely heavily on GPS instead. And, but I mean, when we look at these hotspots, I mean, let's think about it. There are many areas in Canada that are expected to be hotspots. I'm
mhm,
hearing the province of Manitoba. We know that Catalina Island in California seems to be a hotspot for a lot of UFOs coming in. Look at the Tic Tac
right,
incidents that have happened there. We know there's some on the East Coast as well.
and
So
in
I
the
mean,
UK,
and in the
yeah,
UK.
UK.
So, I mean, have we figured out, or have you talked to anybody who has figured out why there's certain areas that seem to attract, or where the UFOs seem to come from and then spread out from there?
Right. I see somebody in chat mentions like volcanoes. There's certain areas that people, I mean, even like our military bases, shutting down our nukes at Malmstrom in Montana. Which that's how, so on Beyond Skinwalker, we have Paul and Andy actually, that's how he got involved in this topic. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but he was stationed there at Malmstrom in charge of those nukes when that incident happened. And it went dark really fast. It got buried and classified. And this has sparked Andy on his quest. And so Andy is a soldier from Malmstrom. And then Paul is an investigative journalist who's more on the skeptical side of things. But for me, it's been really a cool experience being with this crew and this whole production, because so many people ask me, like, is it staged? Are they feeding you, telling you what to say? And not one time did they ever like script a line or, hey, maybe you should say this or do that. It's very much like, days of filming, and you're out there doing your thing, and what happens just happens. They have the cameras rolling, and I had to sign non-disclosures until the new episodes air, but I can tell you that some of the data they were looking at, they didn't get the results they wanted, and they were totally cool. Okay, well, we didn't get what we expected here, so we're going to go look over there, or go over here. And they literally go where the data is taking them. And I can really respect that about that show. So as somebody being involved in it, as a viewer of a lot of these other shows, I always wondered that, like, how does that work behind the scenes? And I know for this case anyway, it's like, I'm like really impressed by everybody on the whole team.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just weird and different. Let me throw in a couple audience questions here, if you don't mind, because they are slowly but surely starting to pile up here.
Okay.
And let us start off with UFO whistleblower here. Who are these ETs that spoke with us over history?
Oh, gosh, I wish I had the answer to that. And I always like to tell people, if people tell you who and what, like who they are, where they're from, and what they want, I mean, I always say turn and run, because we don't have the answers to that. I don't know. I don't know what their motives are, and I don't know who has been speaking with us. I could tell you what's reported at the ranch and what was in the APRO report, and I didn't witness this, but one of the cool things that happened is, at the time I was the guest speaker coordinator for Colorado MUFON. I invited this gentleman named Sean Bartok. He wrote a book called Flashbacks, and in the book, he said his property was in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is still really close to Elbert County. It's in Douglas County. But come to find out that his actual property was 14 miles from the ranch property. And I'm sitting in the third row watching his presentation, and up pops. So the ranch had this guy right here. This guy, I call him the Tubi guy. And this is a guy that Sean Bartok saw on his property. He said these tubes in his neck actually came out like these guys, but they had, I mean, I don't know about you, but they look pretty similar, with the heavy brow, the wrinkles around the mouth. And I just thought that, I was stunned when I saw that. And we didn't know of each other. So he reported seeing this guy in 1970, and this guy was in 1975. I didn't witness these guys, but there were two types that were reported being seen at the ranch. One were these guys, and then the other ones were like these Nordics, these blonde, blue-eyed Nordics. And in the reports, they claimed to be in conflict with one another. In other words, it was like the Nordics, or the Pleiadians, whatever you want to call them, they kind of wanted to keep humanity, and these Tubi guys were almost like merging with AI. And that's what this kind of battle was, and we were just like in their way. That's what was reported on the ranch. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what's in the report. But I just thought it was fascinating that two people that didn't know of each other had very similar sketches 14 miles apart. Isn't that wild?
That is very wild.
So I don't know who they were, or what. I don't know, but that's what was reported.
All right, let us go to another audience question here. And this one comes from Sovereign. Katie, do you know about the incident of Jordan Maxwell witnessing a tall reptilian manifest somewhere in Colorado?
I've heard the name. I don't know the case specifically, but I can tell you that, the ERT team, which is the Experiencer Resource Team, headed up by Kathleen Martin, who is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill. And I know people that are ERT investigators. These are not uncommon cases of people having not only like these reptilian people, but also these cloaked beings I hear from time to time. Have you heard of that, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, these beings in these robes, or Hat Man, these kind of things. So yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know the case well.
By the way, speaking of Hat Man, I don't know if you know about this, but New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who's very much a promoter of ayahuasca, he every time he has an ayahuasca adventure, he is visited by the Hat Man. How weird is that?
Makes sense.
Yeah, he just talked about it the other day again, too, on a podcast.
Have you noticed that more celebrities are coming forward with their ET connections? I've noticed that. Miss Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell. And
I knew Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell. Goldie Hawn says she's had contact, too.
I heard of a private meeting that Gary Nolan was at in Los Angeles, and there were a bunch of celebrities there, including Katy Perry, who is an alleged abductee.
Mm-hmm. Would make sense. I mean,
yeah. See, that's why I want Sammy Hagar on this show.
Yeah.
I want to hear about his 11th dimensional woman being that comes down and takes him. That's and he tells the story. For those who don't know, he actually tells the story in the Van Halen song Love Walks In.
Right.
Love Walks In is all about Sammy Hagar being abducted by a beautiful
Great
woman
lyrics.
in a silken gown, silver light shining down.
Down.
Then you sense a change. Nothing feels the same. All your dreams are strange. Love comes walking in.
Yep.
Exactly.
Great song. Yeah. So many good songs Tools of Rosetta Stone is one of my favorite ET abduction songs right there. It's a really good one.
Yes. Flock of Seagulls, Run Away or Ran
These
Away.
guys.
Yes.
Cashmere.
Absolutely. Let's go to Brown Dwarf here. So we got 4.5 minutes to go. Is there any statistics on abducted people testing positive for radiation?
Well, I know we have some cases that have some really compelling evidence, like the one that has the great burn on his skin. It's like in a checkerboard and things like that. I know Travis Taylor got some radiation burn, and the first time back on the ranch, I experienced some sort of burn on my back shoulder. It almost looks like a handprint on my back. So that was quite frightening, and it blistered and everything. I don't know if it was a radiation burn, but it was frightening, and I hope I don't experience that again. But no, I don't think there is actually somebody who has the statistics on there. Again, there's an opening for somebody out there that can go back to all these historical data and look for all these radiation cases and start something like that. That's really needed,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It would but I mean, when you think of the conspiracy of ufology, this is one of those of those horrific thoughts that the reason why this is covered up is because there are people within the United States government who know who is being abducted. Maybe not all of them, maybe not the one-offers, okay? But those who are being abducted on a regular basis, there is rumor and thought that there may be a list of people that the United States government knows about. And that's one of the reasons why there's a cover-up.
Yeah, possibly. And sadly, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, that don't come back. I mean, look at David Pilates' work, right? Highly suspicious people that go missing and we never see them again. And maybe they know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, it's one of those tough times that we are trying to figure out.
Right. Exactly. And just like my elk hunter here that's afraid to go into the woods, like even where this craft that he witnessed, he's like, I will not go back there. He will not go back there alone. He's like, now with a group of people, sure, I'll take you there. Because of course, I'm like, take me there right away. I want to see where this was. And he's like, oh, but yeah, you have to be careful and safe and go in groups. And
the biggest mistake we made this summer is that when we saw the craft and the beings, we didn't go after them.
Really? You regret doing that?
Regret not doing
it. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, total regret. It was just, but it was so fleeting fast that, I mean, we should have at least gone in. I don't know if that craft cloaked itself. I don't know if it blinked out or if it shot up because going that fast, we wouldn't have been able to see it.
Did you go back the next day?
We were there. This was daytime.
Okay. All right.
When it happened. And I will say this to add more woo to the flavor. We got tipped off by a Sasquatch that it was there.
Oh, how's that?
It growled at us, and it was in between the growl, which was at our base camp, and where we were. And this craft, as the crow flies, was right in between us.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Makes me wonder if there's an interdimensional component to all this.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to talk about on this, and I know there are more audience questions that are right here for you, Katie. But unfortunately, we only got you till the top of the hour. Top of the hour. And we're going to go to break here at the bottom. And Katie, not Katy Perry. I almost said Katy Perry because she is my celebrity crush. But my UFO crush, Katie Paige, right here on Spaced Out Radio, one of the top researchers in ufology. And I don't say that lightly because she is that good. You can find her books on Amazon. She's a popular writer, popular in the UFO world, popular on the speaking circuit. Katie Paige returns for another half hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned as we continue with our UFO talk tonight. It's been a great show indeed. We will be right back on Spaced Out Radio. Woohoo!
You're too kind. Too kind.
Yeah, I tried. Don't hold it against me.
You say that to all the girls.
Yeah.
We all know.
Yes, yes, I do. You gotta. You just gotta.
Yeah, I did a show earlier today with Bob Brown out of the UK, and him and Paul Sinclair. Paul Sinclair has a great documentary out called Wolflands, and he's written several great books. And their big conference this summer in August in the UK is all on high strangeness. So I was very graciously invited out. So I'm super excited to go out there, and I'm hoping to spend a couple extra days to go to some of these high strangeness locations out in the UK, because the parallels between the two, from the hum noises to the boxes to the cryptids to it's almost identical. And I'm just like, what is up with that? That kind of makes me scratch my head, because I'm thinking maybe this is all our military doing black access things. But when you have it going on there too, it makes me wonder, like, what's really going on here?
Oh, very true.
Yeah.
Very
Can't
true.
wait to get out there.
Robin M., how are you? Welcome. Yeah, that was a trippy day.
Yeah, man. I'm actually glad you didn't go after that. You might not be here right now if you did.
I know the night before I had called one in. And I was under the Estes method. And I haven't
heard of that. What is the Estes method?
What they do is they take away your sight and take away your hearing, so you can't hear any questions, but somebody's asking you questions, and you're
right
for answers through the soundproof headphones. Okay, and all you're hearing is a of radio. And I never heard anything, but I kept in my blindfold, and believe it or not, I was actually squinting in my blindfold because this orb was so bright. This orb was just so bright on my left side, and apparently, as I was describing this orb, one of the guys put the camera up, and there was a UFO or white orb coming down towards us, and then through the camera, it went from an orb to a ring, and then disappeared.
Oh wow! That's incredible.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. That was really kind of cool. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, this spot. There's two spots that I've found out in the forest. They are about maybe 15 miles apart. And just weird stuff happens in both of them.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. The one spot is a crash site. Like there was an airplane crash in 1965 there that killed 52 people.
Oh man.
Like the minute the minute you walk in there, if you're any sort of sensitive, you get a headache. You get a headache.
I was gonna say, I wonder how much of that is just spirits too. Like,
well, and that's why I think the
sad.
Sasquatch are there, is because I
Mm.
believe they're protecting the area.
Could be.
You know, and we'll go back.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back at night, but we'll go back. I've been back there once since we were filming there, and it did not feel good.
Right.
It did not feel good at all, and
it's so important to pay attention to that feeling, because boy, if you're sensitive, you could pick up on it.
Yeah, the problem is you never know what you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, like most of the time it's nothing, but I mean, there have been bears there. There have been mountain lions there.
Yeah.
There's, there's been other animals there. There's been farm animals there.
Right.
And it's just a weird feeling being there and knowing that you're walking on top of places where actual human bodies were found. Okay, it's very difficult. Thank you, Von Patrick, and Dry Toast T-Bone ×2, Major Lee ×2, Deb, Mama Catherine, W. Decker, Pix, and Pam H. Here we go. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight, talking UFOs with Katie Paige. We will return to her momentarily, but first we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. They're always free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go, final half hour with our good friend Katie Paige, and we are talking all sorts of UFO topics tonight. We were talking about radiation right before the break, and do you want to continue with that, or would you like to continue with more audience questions, Katie?
Well, let's take some more audience questions.
All right, let us go.
No ugly swag.
No, there is no ugly. By the way, if you're shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, we do not have ugly swag, people. No, we got nice stuff that you'd actually want to wear outside in public, not a flea market, not painting the walls and going to Home Hardware, okay, or Ace Hardware, or wherever you want to go. No, we got nice swag for you. All right, let's go to Joe. Have you been studying the Miami Mall incident?
Very little, but I could say this. Something I find compelling. Our good friend Jessica Jones, who does a little remote viewing, I kind of just caught the tail end of one of her shows the other night. And I thought it was interesting when she remote viewed that. And I know others have come forward. And in fact, David Morehouse on the first episode of Beyond Skinwalker, if you go to the History Channel behind the scenes, because it didn't make the episode, which I was devastated about, and I can't say much. I hope it ends up in season 2, but they did the biggest remote view in the history of the country at the Colorado Ranch. So I know if you're trained properly in remote viewing, good data can come from that source, right? So there's been some compelling, I don't necessarily think they saw aliens. There's more police cars than I've ever seen in my whole life, but I'm not convinced that people didn't see something strange and unusual. So I don't know. What do you think of that, Dave?
I tend to believe that it is not an alien incident.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, but that's my gut feeling.
However, is it something else though?
However, I'm going to put a big however caveat on this, and I'm using the word caveat because I never get to use the word caveat on this show, and I love that word. Okay, almost as much as plethora. Okay, it's in my top 10. here's one thing I know. Okay. And if you go back and look at the footage, I want you to concentrate on this.
Okay.
News cameras within the helicopters that they use for news stations all across North America have incredible
Cameras.
miles long zoom in power. They are the most sophisticated cameras next to the military that they have for these news helicopters.
Right.
So when you see them giving a close up, that helicopter is usually a minimum of 1 mile to 5 miles away. And if you look at that camera angle on the mall where the police, there's all those cop cars blocking the road, and then there's
Right.
traffic slowly going by, everything is in focus. Everything from the
Except
cars to the lines on the street to the palm trees to the trees at the mall to the mall doors and the steps, everything is in focus except one thing, whatever that
thing is.
thing is.
Yeah. So
Okay.
strange.
And that is something where I put that on my me.
That's where it is for me too. It's the
Yeah.
What happened? Something obviously was going on, but
Now, I'm not a camera expert like many people are, okay? But I do know, and I have had friends who've ridden in news helicopters for reporting. And those cameras, I remember that there was a story in Vancouver where in North Vancouver where a gentleman's dog went down a cliff, had fallen down a cliff and was on this little rock ledge, and he went down to try and rescue it. Well, he got stuck there too. So they had zoomed the helicopter camera in on this guy, looking like they were only about 100 feet above above this guy. And people were calling into the newsroom, get out of there, let the rescuers do their work, stop being an ignorant news source. So they proved it. They said, okay, you guys think we're right on top of these people, but they zoomed the camera out rather than in on the guys. They zoomed it out reverse, and they were 3 miles away.
Wow. Right.
Okay. And that's how close the camera looked. Knowing how, and that was 20 years ago.
Right.
Okay. So imagine how much more advanced those cameras are.
Well,
Okay.
what also compels me about this is we had that case in Nevada with all the hoopla about that. Now I don't, and then was it Peru that had that panic? Peru? Yeah. And something was going on there as well. Like, what are all these things that are kind of happening all of a sudden? It seems like one after the other. Every few months we're getting something like this. So I don't know what's up with that, but it's interesting.
Yes. And it is something where I don't know if it was, I mean, the story is it was a bunch of teens running wild. There was a little bit of a brawl. There may have been a gun or two or some weapons shown. I mean, that's the story.
Right.
And once again, I believe that story. That story makes a lot of sense. If you're going to have a big, I don't want to call it a gang brawl, but a bunch of teenagers who are trying to cause some fisticuffs.
Yeah.
But go back and look at that footage from the news helicopter. And that thing is blurry while everything else is
clear. Interesting.
Excuse me. So that's the only thing that I know about that.
Yeah.
Let's go to Noble Patrick. Have you had any more reports of cubes?
Well, what's interesting about the cubes and the boxes, that's something I just kind of didn't talk about because it sounds so strange. But, having the under Sheriff Bill Waugh and him witness it, and he claimed to say that it appeared that they went into the ground, but more and more people are talking about seeing these cubes. And Carl Higdon, the case I mentioned before, there was a box or a cube seen there. Talking with Paul Sinclair in the UK, they have reports of these cubes out there as well. So there's something going on with these cubes. And this person that just contacted me via my website with the General Arthur Exxon, she too has information about these black boxes and cubes. So there's something with that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I am hearing more and more and more about cubes and boxes. And in fact, we get rectangular shaped UAPs, UFOs flying in our skies. You know, they're not aerodynamic by any stretch of the imagination, but people are witnessing these things. So I don't know what's behind them, but it's really compelling.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy.
it's funny that the cubes come up because
Right.
earlier on we were talking about how there's all of these different looking craft. I mean, look at the jellyfish now. If you buy that one,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, all these different strange looking things that are being caught up. Let's go to Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you.
What, there's 3 of these cases, right? Aliens eating pancakes. And all I have to say is I want to teach them how to put blueberries in their pancakes, because then they'll be coming all the time.
What the heck is with aliens eating pancakes?
Pancakes. I don't know, but they don't look tasty. The one guy held on to his pancake for all these years, and it's like, you know, like a rock or something. It's like, here's this pancake. Weird. These, again, why these historical cases are so interesting. I have over here is this big wall. You can't see it, it's off camera, but I have just tons and tons of these old historical magazines. And this is where you get some of these fun cases like the pancake cases. And, you know, people like to write off National Enquirer, but, you know, there's some credible stuff in the old National Enquirer that I'm like, wait a minute, that actually happened. So just like the 2 interceptors that were scrambled, we have good documents on that. So, you know, compelling stuff. I don't know what's up with that. I would like to know.
I don't know either. Let's go over to Castle Dude, who is asking, have you ever seen a ghost?
Yes.
Tell us your best ghost story.
Yeah. Well, so my dad, my dad was a guy who said, you know, when you die, you're dirt. He didn't believe in anything. And so my dad was married 4 different times. His 3rd wife was his best wife. I thought they were like best buddies, watched the Bronco games and the Cubbies, you know, and all that good stuff. Anyway, so he and his wife, her name was Midge. They bought this little house in Englewood, Colorado, and it was her first home that she ever owned, and she had really bad asthma. She passes away in the house in front of my dad. And my dad, quickly, because he doesn't like to be alone, goes on to wife number 4, Liz. And not only does he get with wife number 4 just a few months after Midge passes away, they get married in their backyard in the garden out there. After my dad married Liz, he used to frost his beer mugs, you know, his old beer mugs. He used to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, and he had that old freezer that opened like this. And after he married Liz, those beer mugs would fly out of the freezer and just break onto the kitchen floor, footsteps in the linoleum, light bulbs breaking. Like, she was pissed, I think, that he married Liz. So my dad moves out, and me and my young son at the time, we move into the house with my then husband, and he witnesses, and he never met Midge. She passed away before we were together. In the doorway, we had a fish tank in the living room. So we had the fish tank light on so you can see like a soft light. And he witnessed this being, and she was maybe 5'3", 5'4". And it was just this apparition. And it was like she was doing something with her hair or something, and he stared at her for so long he didn't know what to do and was trying to communicate like telepathically with her, like he was really afraid at first, but he watched her for several minutes, so long that he finally just rolled over and kind of fell asleep because he didn't know what else to do. But the one closet, so they had 2 closets, and Midge kept her favorite coats and her dresses in the one other bedroom closet. And I was always afraid of that closet because when my dad lived there, it kept opening on him. And when we were moving out of that house, I was like, okay, my young son Dustin was living in there. I was afraid to open the closet door. I walked into the bedroom and that door just flew open. And it was like, so I 100% believe in ghosts, 100%. I believe in ghosts more than I believe in UFOs and aliens, for sure, because of my dad and Midge and that whole thing. And then when my dad passed away, I had experiences with him as well, and my half brother too when he passed. So, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to Vaughn here. And he is asking, how many of those that go missing want to leave?
Oh, that's an interesting perspective on that. Yeah, I bet there's millions of people right now going, take me, take me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Who
You'd have
knows? Maybe some people volunteer. I mean, Dave, you just said you wish you would have gone after them. They would have maybe taken you.
You know what though? It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Okay? It really is, because in one aspect, it's like, okay, I got to do this for me. I think it's a very selfish thing. I do, but you think that I got to do this for me. I need to check this out. I need to know if this is real. I got a good life insurance policy.
Will it pay out if you're abducted?
I don't know. I don't know. But it's just one of those things I think I would need to see. I don't know if I have the fortitude to do it. I talk brave.
Right.
But when put in that situation now, I'm 0 for 2.
Right. Would you go to Mars if you were given the opportunity?
I just want to fly the craft.
Oh,
That's all I want to do. I want to walk on that craft. I want to sit down. I want to feel it biologically connect to me, and I want to fly it.
and do you think that's how it's controlled?
Yes.
Yeah.
I interviewed a number of years ago here. My audience has heard this story. I met a 12-year-old girl at my ghost tour who had flown the craft.
Oh, wow.
And I said to her, I said, what was it like? And she goes, I don't know. It was weird. I sat in the chair that was really tiny. And she's a tiny girl, obviously.
Yeah.
And she goes, I just put my hands on these things and it just went wherever my mind wanted to go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I wish we had that now.
Well, that's why I think the Disney movie Flight of the Navigator from 1986 is so extremely relevant and important today.
Yeah.
And for any UFO researcher who is a veteran of this field or just thinking about getting into this, there's only, in my opinion, there's only 2 movies to watch. Number 1 is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The second one is obviously Flight of the Navigator.
And Contact.
You'd put Contact in there too.
I'd put Contact.
I still haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Contact? Have you seen the new movie No One Will Save You? There's 0 dialogue in that movie. No words are spoken. And I didn't even realize it till like 30 minutes in. It is, I've watched it 3 times now. To me, that's my new favorite. No One Will Save You. It's so good.
We got about 7 minutes left here. How come we don't hear from many abductees anymore? There's a lot of people now. Let me explain here. We're seeing a lot more people talk about their experiences online, but we don't have that impactful Betty and Barty Hill story or Calvin Parker's story or Travis Walton's story. Why do you think that is?
I think because it's more and more common that people are, I don't know if people are physically being taken aboard craft and having these examinations we'd hear so much about, right? Being put on these tables and that. It almost seems like the contact is more coming in almost like lucid dream forms or, in different ways than it used to be, where they were like physically beamed up in a light and taken and put it on tables. It seems like it's almost, to me, more people are coming forward than before. So it's more commonplace than back with the Betty and Barney Hill and Travis Walton, and that it was more of a rare phenomenon. And now I'm hearing more abductions than before. That's my take on it.
All right, let's go over
Yeah.
to Nikki here. How many reports are there of the rectangular ET ships?
Well, it's in the lower category for sure. Right now we're getting, more of the orbs and the tic tac shapes, and it seems to, like Dave said, kind of comes in waves where we're getting the cigar shapes in waves or the triangles, but every now and again we get these rectangular ships. I don't know, to me what I'm seeing a lot more are those really small orbs. And also, I was doing like case of the week and really going through the database looking at things, and what I'm seeing a lot of too right now are, it's like these white lights that they're like showing up here on video and then they morph over here and then just shoot straight up. I've seen several of these recently, and I don't know what that phenomena is of a light being here and then shooting off over here and then just boop going straight up. But I've seen several of those lately.
Yes.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I had a conversation with one of our First Nations people the other day. And over on that reserve, they have, I remember one of the former chiefs telling me, I asked him about Bigfoot. He was like, no, we don't have Bigfoot around here. He goes, I just wish the damn star people would leave our people alone.
Oh,
And so I was talking to these people. We were having a conversation about Sasquatch, him and his wife. And his wife 6 weeks ago had a Sasquatch encounter or sighting like 3 miles from my house.
oh wow.
3-4 miles from my house on the highway. And I was like blown away by that. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
he jumps into the conversation. He goes, they used to take me for rides, but I don't remember what happened. I said, well, when would they come get you? And he goes, every time I was walking home from work.
Oh wow. Wow.
Mm.
That was one of the cool things from season 1 on Beyond Skinwalker. I was so excited that they got it on film, but we're out there, we had an unexpected snowstorm. I'm out there with the headlamp on, going over the barbed wire, trying to take him back where I saw that box when I was young. And it's like blanket of snow, and out of nowhere come these bipedal large stride footprints. It's like a blanket of snow, and then these footprints maybe for 12 feet, and then they disappeared for maybe 10 to 12 more feet, and then reappeared and then disappeared, as if something came up from under the ground, walked, went back, walked again, and just, it was the strangest thing. And I was so happy they caught that on film, and it doesn't do it justice on the episode because it looks so much better in person, but I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys just caught that. I don't know what the heck that was, because there were the sightings of Sasquatch out there at the time. So
yeah, this gentleman here, there in that area, there is an old shutdown mine. And the word is when the crews left the mine for the weekend, that's when the aliens would come and go mining.
Oh, interesting.
Because they would see red, blue, white, green lights up on the mountainside where the mine was.
Mm-hmm.
And so this gentleman kept on seeing the green lights, green and white lights from this craft.
Interesting.
That was taking him, but they haven't given him any recall whatsoever.
Right.
So I gave him my number and I said, but if anything happens to you, I said, call me or text me immediately. I will drop everything and I will race out there to see you.
I know some of those mines can be quite haunted, but also like John Durr, PhD, he was one of the PhDs out there on the ranch, and he really researched something called earthquake lights, which is just, they could be white, green, those same colors that are produced by our own planet, our own Earth and geology. So maybe some of that is that too. I don't know.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
With just over a minute to go here on Spaced Out Radio, you have a new podcast that you're starting soon. Give us an update on your podcast and what you're up to, if you don't mind.
I'm. It's called Phones in the Microwave. So people are like, why are you naming it Phones in the Microwave? It kind of started as a running joke because anytime I thought Big Brother was listening, I'm like, okay, Faraday cage. Put them in there. Shut it. Don't start it. We don't want to cook our phones. But yeah, in March I'm starting my own podcast called "Phones in the Microwave" with Katie Paige. Just to really explore these high strangeness topics in depth. Take the conversation where I want to take it and all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And we're going to convince her to simulcast that on our Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel as well.
I would love it. That'd be great.
Yeah. So when she gets that going, make sure all of our listeners go and hit that subscribe and ring that bell on Katie's.
And make sure you guys get your Contact in the Desert tickets too. Right now, you can still get those good prices on that. And that's going to be a great event, May 30th through June 3rd, Contact in the Desert. So that's going to be a great event. It's the 10-year anniversary. So I'll be out there for that as well.
And I still haven't been invited.
They need to get you out there.
I know. They've been told. They don't invite me yet. I'm too new. 10 years now. Katie Paige, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We love you around these parts. We'll talk again soon, and we'll see you in Reno. Coming up next, Among the Missing with Steve Stockton and Courtney brings us the UFO Report on Spaced Out Radio's Final Hour.
Hi, everybody. Thanks.
That was a beautiful show, Katie Paige.
Thank you, Dave Scott. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to go. Well, now that I have my Red Bull, I won't be able to go to sleep.
You can hang out. Hey, if you want, you can hang out for the UFO report.
Oh, I'd like to hear it. I'll stay in the background though.
No, just come on with us. Come on with us if you want.
All right. Yeah, I will.
All right.
Then I'm going to go to bed.
Yes. All right. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'll be right back. I'm going to put you in the green room. Okay.
All right.
Be right back. Be right back. All right. Courtney's back. She's going through her notes heavily, because that's what she does. She's a study animal. Courtney, just so you know, Katie's going to hang out with us and listen to the UFO report. Just so you know. I see you smiling like, yay, Katie Paige. Sarah Yon, how you doing? And let's see who else has joined us. Rennie Cruz. Not going to lie, people. It's cold outside. It is cold. Very, very cold. Freezing. As we got about a minute to go here. Still minus 33 degrees Celsius before wind chill. And that would be just for Fahrenheit, just so you know. Let's convert that to minus 27 Fahrenheit right now outside the studio. That's before wind chill. Before wind chill. Hey, Ron Baca, how are you? Yeah. Stephen Finnegan, good morning to you. Reminder to everyone that we do not have ugly swag at our store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. So make sure you do some shopping there. And we also want to say to you that thank you to Super Chats to T-Bone ×2, Dry Toast, Vaughn Patrick, Monkey, Major Lee ×2, Deb, W. Decker, Mama Catherine, Pix, and Pam H. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do we got? Clam, Canticoy. Canticoy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Michael Wayne Dunhee was born on May 12, 1986, in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. On March 24, 1991, when Michael was only 4 years old, he disappeared from the playground at Blanchard Park Elementary School in Victoria, BC, and has never been seen since. Michael was last seen around 12:30 p.m. that day while playing at the playground, as his mother, Crystal, was participating in a women's football practice, and his father was a spectator. Shockingly, he disappeared from right under their noses, and no witnesses to his disappearance have ever been identified. Michael's disappearance triggered one of the most extensive police investigations in Canadian history. Even now, over 11,000 tips have been received by the RCMP. The case was a significant news story for several years and was reported across Canada and the United States. Despite a large number of tips received and a reward of 100,000 Canadian dollars, the police have yet to find any concrete leads in the case. On the day that Michael disappeared, his family went to Blanchard Elementary School for his mother Crystal's flag football practice. Michael wore a blue hooded jacket, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt, rugby pants, and blue sneakers. When they arrived at the school around 12:30 p.m., Michael requested his mother's permission to go to the playground, which was located near the field where the football practice was taking place. Crystal had a gut feeling that something was off, but she still let Michael walk alone to the playground. She instructed him to wait there until his father, Bruce, came to get him. However, when Bruce arrived at the playground, Michael was nowhere to be found. Concerned, around 50 people began searching for Michael while his parents notified the police. During that time, the investigation into Michael's disappearance became one of the biggest in Canadian history and remains one of the largest today. Since Michael vanished so quickly from a public area, the police classified his case as an abduction rather than a missing person case. As a result, all the detectives from the Victoria Police Department were called in to investigate and resolve the case. Hundreds of tips came in every hour across British Columbia and North America. During that time, they had to be written on carbon paper and sorted out manually. The police believed that the case might have been solved if they had video surveillance, DNA, and a computer system to sort out tips. Detectives investigated known predators and interviewed anyone who was in the area around the time Michael went missing. However, they couldn't gather much information except for a witness report that mentioned a man in his late 40s or early 50s with a brown van seen near the playground. 1 month after Michael's disappearance, the police attempted to recreate the incident at Blanchard Elementary using a brown van, but they were unable to generate any new leads. In 2006, there were reports of a young man resembling Michael who had been living in the interior of British Columbia since 1990. However, DNA testing confirmed that the man was not Michael. In early 2009, police in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, discovered a missing person poster of Michael at the home of 62-year-old Vernon Seitz, who confessed to psychiatrists that he had harmed a child in 1959 when he was 12 years old. Seitz was later found deceased by Milwaukee police, apparently from natural causes. In 2011, the police received a tip about a man in Chase, BC, who resembled Michael. Again, DNA testing later confirmed he was not Michael. In 2013, a post was made on message boards of the official Vancouver Canucks website by a user who claimed that the police were about to conduct a DNA test. Officials required a blood sample from a man in Surrey, BC, whom they suspected might be Michael. However, on September 9, after the completion of DNA testing, the Victoria PD confirmed that the Surrey man was not Michael. In 2020, a TikTok user claimed to have found the shirt that Michael was wearing when he disappeared. The shirt was a rare Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shirt found underwater. Michael's family reached out to the TikToker after seeing the shirt, only to realize that it was not the same shirt that Michael was wearing when he disappeared. Many Victoria residents recalled the day of Michael's disappearance as a loss of innocence for the city. Fears and concerns about child abduction quickly began to rise among parents, children, and schools in the months after the disappearance. Michael's mother, Crystal, became an advocate for missing children in British Columbia and has served as the president of Child Find BC. In 2002, Crystal outwardly supported the RCMP's call to introduce an Amber Alert system in the province. She believed that her son would have been found if such a program had existed in 1991. Since then, the system has been implemented in most regions of Canada. The Esquimalt community hosts an annual charity event called the Michael Dunahee Keep the Hope Alive Fund Run. The event is organized by Michael's sister, Caitlin, to raise funds for Child Find. In 2021, Victoria Police released an age-progressed sketch of Michael and an online tip portal. Since 1991, over 10,000 tips have been received, according to Police Constable Cam McIntyre. In 2023, Michael's family took to Facebook to say there'd been some posts by someone claiming to be Michael adding some people may have even been contacted directly by the supposed online imposter. We can confirm he is not, the family wrote. We are working closely with the police to ensure he gets the help he needs. Please do not engage in conversations with him, and most importantly, please do not send him money as he was requesting. Thank you for your compassion for all involved. As of 2024, Michael's case remains open, with both the police and Michael's family remaining hopeful for an ultimate resolution. Anyone with any information regarding Michael's disappearance or whereabouts is asked to please contact the Victoria, BC Police Department at 250-995-7654 and reference case number 91-10349.
You know, being from British Columbia, that story hits everybody at home. So that's the one case I think we all in BC and Canada want to be solved. Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for bringing that story to the table. And from the missing to the mysterious, Courtney Marcassani comes in with the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
All right, Courtney Marcassani partying up in Alaska tonight, where it's like minus 59 Fahrenheit or whatever the temperature. Way colder than
It's not that bad up here right now. Actually, it was colder. We were at like 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've just gone up to like 20, and now they're saying it might even go up to 30. So it seems like we're above you right now.
We're at 19 here in Colorado. So.
Yeah. So you guys have us beat. I mean, not in the interior. We're in Anchorage, but if you go into the interior, it gets a lot colder. So we're relatively high right now.
We are at minus 27 Fahrenheit, minus 33 Celsius outside.
My God. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
nice. Yeah, that's where the minute you go outside, your nose hair freezes.
Yeah. I've been there before. Montana, when I lived in Montana, same kind of thing. It would just get so cold. And with the wind and the wind chill, it's frightening cold.
Yes. Katie Paige has decided to stick around because she wants to hear the UFO.
I hear the notes.
All right.
We were telling her about your notepad, your secret notepad that you have right there.
That's amazing.
I take notes about everything. I mean, I have a really good memory and I remember a lot of things, but I have to write a lot of stuff down when I'm in conversations with other people so I don't miss stuff. And I've just been in conversations for basically like the last week.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and it's been great because it seems like some barriers have gone down, allowing other, groups to kind of talk and network. So it's been a really fun time, actually, seeing how all the networks are connected.
That's so important. I'm glad to hear
It
that.
is. Yeah.
Where do you want to start there? Because there's so much going on, Courtney. Do you want to start with the skiff briefing?
Yeah, well, I was supposed to be actually on the East Coast, last week, but because the Alaska Airlines flights were grounded, I ended up having to stay home. And so I'm seeing all the reports out of Washington that are saying this was a landmark thing. I mean, I was saying to everybody on Twitter and whatnot, this is really important. Like, we need to pay attention to this. And people are like, it's nothing. It doesn't matter. Nothing good is going to come out of this. And I actually was more positive that all the people in the community, because they were basically saying after Schumer and Rounds, got watered down, that there was nothing to see here. And I'm thinking to myself, with this classified briefing coming up, it is a really big deal because it's Monheim. It's who Grush testified to. And so I don't know if people weren't tracking or maybe didn't know his name or what, but it was a landmark day. So I'm really excited. I wish I could have been on the East Coast and be close to it, but I'm seeing all the reports out of it, and it's mixed. Some people are saying this is really exciting. The people that were in the room are saying Grush is absolutely a trusted witness, and we want to learn more. We want to get another skiff. And so we talked about this, Dave, last month, like everybody was so down because his security clearance had gone away. But this is a good replacement, right? To have the person that he testified to go into the skiff is almost maybe just as good because he's an authority.
All right. For people who may not know what a skiff is, maybe explain that to them.
It's a compartmentalized private space for people who have a certain level of clearance that get approved to have a higher level of clearance so they can look at certain compartmentalized classified programs that you can't see like in an open hearing because it would give away sources, methods, things that the public just generally shouldn't be seeing because of the way that the programs are run. There's classified secrets in them. So the skiff is a specialized way for people to get certain clearances to see certain information. And it has to be approved. And, certain Congress people can see it once they get in this gift. So that was the problem with the hearing. David Grush kept saying, I can't go far. I can only go to this place in my testimony. I can't go any further in an open hearing. And he just kept having to say that. I should go back and look at the transcript and count how many times he had to say, I can't talk about that in an open hearing. So the good news is this is kind of like a replacement for a lot of the information he talked about. And the IG was able to share information apparently. And so it made Grush a credible witness, essentially, this briefing.
Katie, what's your thoughts?
I think that's a great thing. I see it as a positive thing, like you do. And I know that the little bit I've seen about it is a mixed bag, like Courtney's saying. So, yeah, I see it as a positive thing.
At some point, Courtney, do you think that whatever David Grush is saying behind the scenes in these skiff meetings will start to come out to the public? I understand that they have to keep quiet. There's a lot of names and a lot of sources that are in there that are still involved in top secret projects and or investigations, whatever it may be. But at some point, can we have any hope whatsoever that what is said in these skiffs will end up coming back to the public?
Well, yes, I think so. To answer your question, because we've talked about this before, but I'll just say it again. He went through the DOPSR process. And the DOPSR process is like a pre-publication process that anybody who works in the government, especially in intelligence or, some of these compartmentalized programs, they have to go through the DOPSR process to approve certain information to be able to speak about it, whether it's in a book or in any kind of videos or anything like that. So Grush went through a DOPSR process, but of course there's all this other information that he wasn't either approved to talk about through the DOPSR process, or he can't talk about it, or he didn't maybe even bring it up through the DOPSR process. So yes, more information is going to come out. He did a private meeting in New York, and this was leaked out on Twitter, and there were pictures. Somebody took pictures from the event where he talked about new information. So there's already new information out from what we heard at the hearing and what he has actually gone and done in news interviews. And one of the things that he said that I had not seen before, this is new information, is that he actually worked on a compartmentalized secret program where they were looking into, because he has his physics background, right? I don't know if everybody knows that, but he's got a physics degree and he was in intelligence, he was in Afghanistan. So he's got a number of skill sets, right, to apply to his job and these different various programs that he's worked on. But this one I hadn't heard of, where they were actually doing stealth technology to go up into the atmosphere and track these UFOs and objects that they hadn't been able to before. And so that was something new that came out in the New York meeting. The other thing that came out in the New York meeting was that he's trying to go back through the DOPSR process and get more information out through a second run. The first thing that he's going to do is do an op-ed piece. That's coming soon. It's been extended and delayed so he can get more approval to talk about more information. And then he's going to go back and hope to get more information out. So I would say, yeah, my money's on more information is going to come out from Grush.
Oh, I hope so. Katie, how important is this information from David Grush, in your opinion?
I think it's really important because I think it's opening the door, and it could potentially in years to come open floodgates of information. And even just, in my wheelhouse, getting these names that are linked, even like Bob Bigelow owning Mount Wilson and Skinwalker, and who Bigelow was in cahoots with. And, these people are tied together. And I just think that, in these Bigelow Aerospace and in General Electric and these companies, Intel and all that we can't send FOIA requests to. Eventually, these people, like Courtney said, this is a process they need to go through in a legal way that's protecting them, protecting their secrets. I think that's an important piece. We all have to understand we have secrets that need to be protected. And so I think this is great. It's going through these channels that they need to be gone through before they can be put out there for the rest of us to get these little pieces of information. So,
Courtney, you want to add to that?
No, I like that you brought up though that Bigelow bought Wilson Mountain, because we haven't talked about that yet on the news report, and that's something that's been out there. I've seen people talking about it and Mount Wilson and how important it is in this whole story. And so there's so many moving parts, with all these various projects and programs. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that, in the older generation, a lot of this was so secret and there was so much rumor and disinformation going on. And one of the things I'm noticing through all the conversations I'm having with folks about what they're working on in their research is that there are these trends. Yeah. They're the trends, the whistleblowers, they're talking about the programs. We have the Wilson docs that also talked about the programs, certain generations of programs. So I think what's happening now, especially with Grush's testimony, is that it's this tipping point where you're seeing and hearing enough of these stories that it's starting to really document long-running programs that you can pretty much say, okay, these exist. We don't know all the truth about all of it, but this seems to be stacking up enough truth from enough verified sources that prove, yes, there were programs. These are the people. And I think we're going to see a next generation of these whistleblowers that are going to come out they're going to talk about it in a whole new way. So I am actually really excited about that. And I do think this is a positive thing.
Right. And I think some of this goes back to like the Tesla technologies, right, that have been hidden and all that. It all can tie into that. And so as these little bits of information comes out, it allows really intelligent people way above me that can put this stuff together and go, aha, and looking at different patents that were put out there and whatnot. So it's
I love
really
Tesla story. We should do a whole news thing on Tesla story and, all of his files and when he lived in New York, in the big penthouse. That would be fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that's very interesting is Bob Lazar has come out recently stating that he's very happy of being outside of the UFO world and more than happy to be passing the torch over to David Grush. I mean, it's neat to think that Bob Lazar, after everything he's been through, is staying in touch with that, which does make sense considering he's very well tied to Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. But from his home in Oregon, basically saying, no, this is David Grush's game to run now. I did my piece in 1989, and now it's time for somebody else. I mean, what do you guys think of that comment? Courtney, let's start with you.
Well, I think that Bob Lazar believes in his story. I mean, he does seem to, believe, whole hog. He's all in, but I think he should stay out of it. I think that his story is so controversial. There are so many different problems with it and issues with it. I'll just say that. And so I think that he should stay out of it. I think he's right that he should back away from it. I know there's a lot of people that want him to testify about his story and what happened, out in Nevada. But I think that it might tarnish what's going on right now, because we see this new generation of people that are untarnished, and we get to judge them and the information that's coming out, and they're going through this high level security clearance process. And I think that it could tarnish things. That's just my opinion.
Well
Katie,
said.
what do you think?
I like that opinion. You're right. That is a slippery slope, So let's hear it from the new folks and especially those, like I said, in these compartmentalized aerospace companies and different corporations. Let them kind of start blowing the whistle and tell us what they've uncovered, maybe back engineered and things like that. So I agree with Courtney on that one.
Well, you know what? I think it's pretty interesting to see Bob Lazar weigh in on this, because it does show that whether he's weighing in on it or not, there is still probably some intrigue into what else is going to come out. that he knows about. And it's weird how everything always seems to revolve and go back to the Lazar. That's one of the things that I've always found interesting. We can take this down in one direction, and somehow it ends with a Lazar comment or a Lazar confirmation. I still
Well,
think
he knew when he knew where to tell people to be at night.
absolutely he
Come
did.
on.
We'll continue. Courtney Marcusani's UFO report.
Good
Our
night.
guest, Katie Paige, hanging on out. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this with the UFO report from Courtney. We'll be right back.
Thanks for letting me
Katie-
hang out for a little bit. I'm going to go to
Katie,
bed here in a minute.
Well,
though.
I've heard of you. I've heard of you. I know your name. Tell me what you do in the community, because I know I've seen your name and heard your name before.
Yeah, I'm just, the Colorado Ranch. I had experiences in the mid to late 70s I'm actually headed to Mount Wilson at the end of this month to meet Jeff. And so that's sort of been my wheelhouse, is trying to uncover
Cool.
how much of it's Black access projects and, technologies that are being researched and covered up, and how much of it is actual ET, UFO, paranormal type things. So
Oh
just
my
been
God. Good
diving
for
deep
you.
on that for over a decade now, and you know how that goes. It's just one question leads to another question, and it never leads to any answers at all, just more questions, and so on and on it goes.
Absolutely. When are you going? When's the trip?
And end of the month. Yep.
Wow,
So
it's
headed
coming up.
headed back to Virginia next week, and then after we get from back, we're gonna fly to Nevada. So
Are you going
I'm
to come
looking
back
forward
out
to
on Spaced Out Radio and do a little debrief of what happened, or are
Yeah,
you going to
I
write about
mean,
it?
I would love to, if I'm able to share some things. Like I mentioned earlier on the show, I guess there's certain truths that I'm a little nervous of getting too close to, but I suppose if I get too close to certain truths, I'll know one way or the other. So, but these
I would
connections
love
of
to hear
people,
about Jeff.
yeah,
I would love to hear about him and
yeah,
how it
and
goes. That would be cool.
and what's really interesting with the Mount Wilson Ranch and going through Dr. Leo Sprinkle's folders in 1996, we have, I have a photograph on my computer of, Linda Moulton Howe, Bob Bigelow, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, all these people together out Mount Wilson. Why? What are they looking at? All these people. So these interesting names keep coming up over and over and over again. And I'm really compelled by that.
That's
So,
incredible. When I have to tell you this before you click off, I was in the Palo Alto for the Soul Symposium, this big, prestigious deal. And I just feel like a hick, amongst everybody, but I'm like in there, like a little kid, taking everything in. And Jacques Vallée did the same thing, where he put up slides from the early days at SRI when they had a whole UFO group. And it's like Dick Haynes and Bruce Maccabee and, all these like early founders. And I was just like, I wish we could take pictures of this. We weren't allowed, but it was like, just to see the photos of them at Stanford, I was like, this is unbelievable.
Goodness. Right. And I think they were working on things that are still being covered up, the NIDS team and all that. So, I'm curious about what they were up to, and, different patents that were brought out and things. So I'm kind of following that path at the moment. See where that leads.
Well, I'm glad I get to meet you. I hope our paths will cross again.
I'm sure they will. It's a pleasure meeting you. And thank you for all the work you do, Courtney. It's incredible. I mean, those of you who can keep up with the daily news stories, it blows my mind, because it's always changing and it's ebbing and flowing. And so thank you for all the work you do as well.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Dave. I'm going to go. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. We'll both be at our fan party in Reno in May.
Awesome. We'll meet you there. Okay. Good night.
Absolutely. Good night, Kitty. Yes. Good source to have there, Court.
Well, I've heard about Wilson Mountain, and it was Chris Bartell who was like, you need to, dig into the mountain. And I was like, okay, in my free time, in my spare time, I'll get there, to Wilson Mountain. But it is on my stack of stuff, like dig into Wilson Mountain, find out about that. But if she's already doing that, I just need to read about her work, because she sounds like she's tackling it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can send you her phone number.
Well, ask her first. I know you're really like hold stuff tight to the vest on the phone numbers, because I asked for one a long time ago and you like dodged me. I was like, really?
Yeah, but look
Dave,
who that
it was like a
was.
smooth dodge. It was like there's nothing to see here. I was like, oh, okay. But I did get the number another way. So, but you're off the hook.
Just hold it against me.
I'm not. No, I just have an elephant memory. So I remember things. It's part of
Yes,
my charm.
that is why I never want to piss you off.
Do you remember that one time?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I get over things. I try not to hold grudges.
That's why I love you. That's why I love you. We got 30 seconds. Thank you to T-Bone with the hat trick. Monkey Man, Von Patrick, Dry Toast, Major Lee times 2, Deb, Pam H, Pix, W. Decker, Mama Catherine. Great super chatting tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. And go shop at our store at spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people, so make sure you head on over there. We'll be right back right now. Here we go with the final half hour of the UFO Report on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate turning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with the UFO Report. Courtney Marcassani is here, and we are hanging on out, talking all things UFO. And Courtney, right before the break, we were talking about Bob Lazar giving the thumbs up, almost passing the torch, it seemed, over to David Grush. Everything seems to be revolving around David Grush now. He is the face of the franchise when it comes to ufology. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes talking about his level of importance regarding the information that still hasn't come out that he is holding on to and trying to get permission to bring out. Where is David Grush getting all of this? Is he a mouthpiece for the side that wants the information out, or is this stuff that he actually worked with? Have you figured that out yet?
I think it's a really complex web that he's in. I think that he had fact evidence that he found in his UAP task force days, obviously, and he had clearance to go all the way up and do briefings for the president. So he had such a high level of clearance. I'm sure he thought nothing was going to be off limits to him because he was kind of coming into his job as oh, this is an interesting thing to have on my resume. I mean, he's pretty much has said as much. He wasn't, he didn't believe that there was a program or other programs, many programs maybe. So I do think that he got evidence, fact evidence, and he wanted to bring that out. I also think that there are other people definitely in the background at play that are not open or forward facing. And so I think that's also an influence. And I do think that he wants to do something with this. I mean, that's why he's listed on the Soul Foundation and talking about the Soul Foundation, because I think he wants to bring out this information into that light. So I think it's multiple facets. It's very complex, but no, I haven't figured it out. Heck no. I only take educated guesses as to what I think is going on.
Okay. So the fact that in 2023, we saw a lot of people attacking him online, rogue journalists, we saw podcasters, YouTube hosts, some newspaper reporters really going at his credibility from his health right to his position that he was with. So I'm curious, are we going to see more of these blatant type attacks on him and his credibility in 2024? Or because the last ones didn't work, it's going to be a little bit different this time?
I think it's inevitable for the attacks. And I think it's something about human nature that we want to tear down the person in the ring. It's like the gladiators, pick a side and watch them fight to the death. It's that kind of thing, which is really, it's a spirit of competitiveness and, somebody being too high and mighty or whatever. We have that nature in us to be critical and tear people down. But the only reason why I think that'll happen again is because it happened with Lou Elizondo. It happened with him. He was a highly credible person. He was somebody who was involved with ATIP. He knew about OSAP. I mean, he had all the historical knowledge. He was a service member. And look at how he got torn apart. And he obviously took a huge hit by it, and he cared about it. You could tell, because he talked about how vicious the people were in the community and human nature in general, just about his story and his testimony. So why wouldn't we expect that to happen to David Grush?
Very true. Although there was a movie put out about Lou Elizondo, that was pretty much a hit piece against him. I'm surprised we haven't seen anything like that with Grush just yet, or maybe it's in the play. I don't know yet.
Oh, there was stuff that came out, not a video like that scathing video about Lou Elizondo, but there was stuff that came out immediately. People immediately attacked him about how he was a real estate agent in Denver, and who is this guy, and he's a nobody. And I just started to see all that coming out, and I was just well, we'll see. I thought, we'll see what happens here with this person. And so I think that, any person who's leaving behind, especially a whistleblower who's leaving behind a legacy and is in the spotlight like he is, I think we should give him some grace. He's going to make mistakes. Every person does. And so I think that we need to be less vicious and wanting to tear people down, and just watch the way he moves and see what he does. Now, if he gives us reason to believe that he's just about the dollars, then okay, he has to make those decisions, and that will reflect who he is as a man and, as a whistleblower, and his motivation for getting out of all this. But right now, I believe that his motivation was good, that he had good reasons to do it. So I still think that he's, a patriot because of what he did in the testimony, and he's already been threatened, and so is his wife. So he's taken a big risk and putting his personal life, on stage, essentially, to be ripped down. So that's not an easy thing to do. That's a hard decision to make. So I think a lot of times we don't think about the complexity of these things and what makes up a person. And those aren't easy things that he's done so far.
No, I don't think so either. And I think what he's also doing is trying to, behind the scenes, blaze trails for other whistleblowers to have easier paths than he did to get to this point in life. And hopefully that works, because as well as I do, there are other whistleblowers sitting there quietly waiting to see what happens with Grush and how the politics of it all plays out.
Look, more names are going to come out. That is inevitable. Some are already out, and more are going to come out. And so I know that it's not easy to say to the listening audience or people who are doing the research, look, just be patient and wait, right? Because we've all been being patient and waiting so long. But, people were looking at this classified briefing today and saying that it was BS, that it was nothing. It was a nothing burger. And I kept saying, hey, this is the Inspector General coming into a skiff, because he's going to go ahead and back up what Grush is saying. And he did it. And so it took time to get to that place and get that to happen, but people moved through the political process to make it happen. So we should just be patient, because they are coming out, and these steps that we can see, these huge steps actually, are going to make it possible for whistleblower stories to come out. Now, what's going to be allowed to be talked about? Maybe we don't get everything we want, but I do think that they are going to come out and talk about their stories.
I know you wanted to touch on Miami and that situation.
Did I?
We talked
What did I
earlier
want to
about
say?
it.
Remind me. Here I am saying I have such a great memory. What were we going to talk about?
Well, you wanted to give an update on what you thought was going on down there, and whether or not it was an alien or not at the Miami Mall.
No, I don't think it is. No, I stand by that. I said that in the last time that we talked. I don't think it is. And I don't know what it is yet. And I think it's going to be up to somebody to go down there, somebody in our community actually to go down there and do interviews and talk to people, go on site and talk to the police too. That's kind of how we left it during the last show. And I stand by that. I think that somebody will go and probably do that work. I'm not going to go do it, but I think somebody will. I think Darcy, no, not Darcy, it was Dave Altman. Dave Altman was already starting to work on, compiling the videos and the narratives and a lot of that and working on that. So my last thing that I checked in with the show is let's wait and see. But no, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, but that camera angle just doesn't make sense to me. Does not make sense at all. Okay, let us continue on here with the UFO report, because there is a lot of people out there talking about this TMZ series that has a lot of people from Science Bob to Christopher Sharp from the Liberation Times talking about this 3-part series about UFOs. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I'm not sure if you have yet, but seems to be a lot of positive response on bringing out the UFO story and bringing a lot of news worthy attention to it.
Well, that's a certain demographic, and you've got to look at the way some of the stories are coming out. They're still not mainstream. Now, TMZ might reach a mainstream audience, but they're definitely going to be people who are more into like celebrity tabloids and that kind of thing. So it's interesting the demographic that they're shooting for. It's kind of like the Daily Mail. The people over in the UK say, I don't know why you Americans are always, reading the Daily Mail. They're like, this is like a terrible a rag. We don't look at it as being serious or journalistic or anything. So I think it's interesting that TMZ actually invested into a series because they know how popular it is. That's one of the things. They went and cashed in because they know it's a popular topic. And they also know it's really hot right now. Everybody wants to know about it. And so I think it's part business decision. Now, I haven't seen the testimony of what they did. I need to go and watch it. I didn't know it was a longer series, that it was like an episodic television program that TMZ produced. Is that what they did? They did like a multi-episode show?
They did a 3-part episode for TMZ, which can also be viewed on Tubi TV.
I haven't seen it, but I didn't know Science Bob was in it. So that will make me go and watch it because I, tend to watch his stuff if I can. But I probably wouldn't watch TMZ because I'm not a TMZ, watcher. It's not my thing. I would be more likely to watch, like a documentary that's on Netflix. That's more I'm more, Netflix demographic, or maybe like Hulu or something like that. I'm not a TMZ person. So I think that TMZ probably were smart to put somebody like Science Bob in it because he, he's been on other programs and he's had stories to share. And so it's good that they picked him. Who else did they pick for witnesses?
Oh, Jay King is another one.
Really?
Yeah, Avi Loeb for obvious reasons, and a number of other ones.
Well, they're actually shooting above their weight because, TMZ in my mind would be more of a lower level. I wouldn't call it journalism, and I wouldn't think it was journalism. So in my mind, looking at TMZ as being somebody that's doing something like that, I'm thinking National Enquirer. That's where it is in my mind in terms of an association. So maybe they're trying to be taken more seriously, but in my mind, it just means that ufology is not being taken seriously if TMZ is the one doing it. That's my perception, and maybe I'm being a snob.
I can see that. I don't think you're being a snob whatsoever, though. I really don't. But that's just me. Who am I? I mean, in reality, I'm just a radio guy with a nice beard.
But doesn't it? Do you guys have the National Enquirer in Canada?
I think so. I think it's on the smut rags, right before you go to cash out your groceries at the supermarket.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole long history about National Enquirer. And the front of it, you'd always see, 10-foot alien in this woman's backyard in New Jersey, right? Like housewife sees, and so you always see that stuff. And then it's the stuff that's like too fantastic to be real, but it actually has a real history with the CIA. Did you know that?
You know what? I had heard that before, Okay, here's the interesting part about that from when I first heard it. Do you remember in the original movie Men in Black, Tommy Lee Jones takes Will Smith over to the newsstand to buy all of the rag magazines like the National Enquirer, like the Globe, and others, so that way he could get up to date on the aliens that were coming to and from Earth.
Yeah, so they knew it. I mean, but there really is a long history with the National Enquirer being paid and putting stories in, and it has a CIA connection. And a friend of mine did a lot of that work, and he brought me up to speed on a lot of it. So I was surprised. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea." And so they were poking fun out of it, but it reminds me of conspiracy theory, in the movie with the Australian guy. He was in Lethal Weapon.
Mel
Mel
Gibson.
Gibson. In Conspiracy, when he goes and he reads all the papers and he picks all the parts out of it and he puts everything together and he's like, this is the real story. And it's kind of all connected. It's about where, certain things happen in the world geopolitically and the money and the Senate and all of that. I kind of look at the UFO world like that. It's like a lot of these things are connected. People just don't necessarily make the connections of what's going on in the Senate and the whistleblowers and what projects are being created and what money's being spent, but a lot of it is connected.
How connected?
Well, you have to look at the way that the Lockheed worked the IRAD monies and how they became so dominant in air, and Boeing and a lot of that. It's all connected to the IRAD money and the black budgets in the Pentagon, and that they haven't been able to account for what they've been given. And it just goes on and on and on and on, and who gets elected and who's on what select committee and what they're going to be willing to talk about in these hearings, or how they're going to block it because, or how they're going to get somebody else kicked out because they're willing to talk about these issues. It's just totally connected. It's all connected.
Just like Grant Cameron says, everything continues to be connected. 5 minutes ago here, before we have to say goodnight to our audience, what else have you been working on that's pertinent to our show?
Well, I'm definitely working on talking to people in different networks. The whistleblower stuff has opened up doors, and people are being a little bit more open because they're trying to help validate stories. They're trying to help verify things that are being said and trying to help us essentially, so that, when we're working, we're getting feedback. So that's a really great thing I'm seeing, is doors being opened between the community that normally wouldn't be, so we can all share stories. And that's been incredible to see how broken down things are and how relationships are kind of broken down. And now things are warming up and people are being friendly and everybody's sharing a little bit. And it's been quite amazing. And if everybody did that in our community, I really feel like we might have had this figured out a lot longer, like before. And so that's been inspiring. So I'm working on that. And I'm working on a couple creative projects. I'm actually working on a lot of different things right now, but the whistleblower thing is primary for me, trying to understand it.
Now, have you had the opportunity to talk to any whistleblowers? And if so, much like my concern, is it something that you're hearing that they just want to be protected until their DOPSR gets through?
No, they want to talk. They want to talk about their stories. I mean, it sounds to me like there's multiple groups out there of whistleblowers that support one another and help one another, because it's a very difficult process. And I didn't realize, how stressful and difficult that process is for them. So I'm actually learning along the way how hard it is and what some of these issues are, so I could be more sympathetic, to it. Because that's the other thing, is we all want to hear the stories, we all want to know, but it's actually a really serious issue for them, what they can say, what they can't say. And so I'm getting insights into that. And yeah, they are talking. They talk to certain people. I haven't talked to, a lot of whistleblowers, but I have talked to the one. And, we had some nice time on the phone and he shared a little bit, but he's also, wanting to be very careful. And so I have to be careful too. And so do you. And so it's been eye-opening.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting on how the dynamics of it all play out when you get a name and all of a sudden you got to be like, okay, if I mention that name, what's the results? What's the reaction? And sometimes it could be fantastic. Other times you could get booed off the stage. I mean, you just don't know which reaction is going to happen.
Well, we want what we want. We're hungry for information. We want to know about the program. We want to know the details of it. We want to know how high it goes. We want to know who knows about it. We want to know who worked in it. And, there's going to be a movie coming out about it. And maybe more movies are going to be coming out about it. I mean, TMZ is doing stories about this, for God's sake. So there's definitely interest, a high level of interest in the public, not just the American public. Everybody wants to know about the whistleblowers and when they're going to come out. So there's just a lot at stake, and it's it's a dangerous game. So you have to be careful in how you play it, but I want to win it. I'm a competitor and so are you. So we want to win,
Oh, absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. And it's a competitive market right now. But I mean, as we've talked about previously, watching all of these different groups kind of click up into these tight formations and circle their wagons with each other, it's amazing that anything is getting out as we speak.
Information is getting out, though. It is. Information is getting out. You have to pay attention. You have to watch the certain circles of people. And yeah, you might not be in a circle, but there is information coming out. Look, David Grush was in a secret meeting in New York, and those slides and those photos of him and the text of what was covered in the meeting was on Twitter. I don't even know how long after the meeting. So stuff is leaking out, and it's going to keep leaking out because people want to share what's going on. So there's going to be more information comes. We just have to be patient, and we have to be on top of our game. We have to check in with people, and we have to follow up with people. I've been crazily surprised how doors have opened since people know that we're in touch with whistleblowers, that people have started to share information. So that was like a little, a little challenge to get through that, but now folks are sharing, and it's unbelievable the connections we're making. So I'm going to be talking about all that stuff as we go along, because as from my notebook, I'm writing everything down things, because it's so multi-layered, it's so multi-layered, it's so complex. It's very difficult to keep on top of all of it.
Yeah, and I know it can be extremely stressful for many of us out there, yourself, myself included, in trying to keep the information all straight. But you really need to be commended for your hard work behind the scenes. And that's why we absolutely love you. And you are so important to what we do here on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis, Courtney. So thank you so much for another great report.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me, and thanks for sticking through. Hopefully we'll get more big news soon.
Absolutely. And we say thank you and good night to Courtney Marcassani on the UFO Report. And we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. It's over. It's over.
Another
Great
week gone.
Great show.
Yeah, it was a great show, and I tried to give as much as I could.
You did great.
Yeah, the slides that came up on Twitter were, pretty amazing about the program that he worked on. There's somebody in the chat room that wants to know about Mount Hayes in Alaska. So can I share about that real
You
quick?
do that. I'm just going to quickly run to the bathroom here.
Yeah. Okay. So Mount Hayes is a long time. It's a huge mountain here in Alaska, and it's a little ways away from Anchorage where I live, but it's been known for a long time for activity, and it was featured in there was a series, I think it was called Aliens in Alaska. It was 2 years ago, I think, and James Fox did one episode where he came up and chartered a plane because they had heard these stories about Mount Hayes, about people going missing, and also that there was a lot of UFO activity there. And the third one was there was a remote viewer, well, still is a remote viewer. I shouldn't say was, she's still alive. Her name is Lori Williams, and she's, very popular. She's done some remote viewing where she's found some downed planes, missing people. She's pretty legit. And she did a remote viewing for, I can't remember if it was the CIA, what service it was, or maybe they didn't tell us, but it was, it was something secret. And I was pretty sure it was for the government that they wanted her to look at this target. And so she looks at the target. She sees the ice, the snow, it's a mountain. And then there's this whole like civilization underneath the mountain. And they're these beings, they don't have any hair. They use telepathy to communicate. And so Lori Williams did this whole thing. And then she found out it was Mount Hayes in Alaska that she was viewing as a target. And so I'm actually taking an expedition. I'll break this news. That's one of the things I'm working on. I'm actually doing an expedition to Mount Hayes with people up here, a MUFON director. And I'm going to see if I can get another guy who's doing UAP detection stuff in his dissertation in the Midwest to see if he'll come up and use his UAP detection stuff. And we're going to camp out there. And we've gotten warnings already where people were like, don't go out there, Courtney, you'll disappear. But, I think it's probably pretty safe to go to Mount Hayes. But that's the story. Missing people, UAP sightings, lots of testimony, a lot of witnesses. And then Lori Williams did the remote viewing. You'll have to go and find the Alaska aliens or aliens in Alaska. And it's an episode in there where you can see the whole story about Mount Hayes. So that's the deal.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, we've been planning that. I've been wanting to do it for at least a year, but they couldn't do it. We have a guide. He's climbed Mount Hayes a couple times. He's shown interest. He's an experiencer. He's going to come with us to make sure we do stuff, everything's safe. And then I have a bunch of camping stuff, and I have my truck. So I'm going to bring my truck and put all the equipment in it. And then we're going to go out there and see what happens. So yeah, it's a bunch of Alaskan people. And then maybe we'll bring a couple people up, specialists in the technology that can help us detect them.
That is amazing. That sounds so much fun.
Well, maybe you'll come up for it, Dave. Maybe that'll be, your Alaska trip. I'll tell you when it's going down.
Do that.
Yeah, well, maybe we could do a little film shooting. I've been thinking maybe we should do a little documentary out of it because it's Alaska. And not a lot of people know about Mount Hayes, but it's famous in certain circles for UFO activity.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I've heard that. I mean, aren't you in the Alaskan Triangle?
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. And people have disappeared. That's the whole disappearing and people being worried about us going out there. But I'm not afraid. And it's a beautiful area. And there's this campsite there. And then there's this other, really nice hotel that's nearby for people that are coming to stay with us. I mean, I'm probably just going to go to the campsite and camp out because that's going to get us closer. You can go look on a map at Mount Hayes. It's a huge mountain, huge in elevation. And then Delta is nearby, as the next town that's nearby. So it's going to be an adventure.
Oh,
Bigfoot's taking them. Yeah, I know. We'll be out there with like our, say anything, radios with our, Bigfoot screeching out there. Something will show up.
Yeah, and those giant freaking grizzly bears that you have up there.
Yeah, well, you got to be prepared. We'll have to have guns and stuff. Yeah, it's a serious
Yeah.
deal. It's not for the faint of heart.
That's why I'm going to get my license here soon.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good thing to have some skills. Well, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. It was a great show. Thanks for having me, Dave, and I'll see you on Monday.
We will see you on Monday, my friend, and another incredible report by yourself. And keep up the great work and the knowledge. And I expect a busy weekend of phone calls for you. So keep it on up, my dear.
Yeah, it's been pretty nuts, but I have been keeping up with it. So let's hope it keeps going so we have some fun things to report. I'll see you on Monday.
Absolutely. See you Monday.
All
Courtney
right.
Marcusani, everybody. We love her around here. She's the best. Really is the best. So how y'all doing? Just you and me sitting around a cold room. Anybody want to come warm me up a little bit? Because I am freezing my ass off here. I'm going to write down a list this weekend of who the special guests are coming so far. I've had a few confirmations recently, and I got to lock those up. You'll be glad to know that R. Keith Andrews is the next one coming to Reno for the 3rd annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party. I'm going for my firearms license, Deb. Yeah, R. Keith Andrews. What's the temp in the room? I don't know what the temperature of the room is right now, but I can tell you it's not cold, but it's not warm. Like after I'm done here, I'm probably going to go for a nice warm shower before crawling into bed. So here's who I know is coming so far for the fan party. We have R. Keith Andrews. We have Katie Paige. She's going to try and make it. We have Courtney. We have Tim Senor, Melinda Leslie, Lorian Fenton, Geraldine Orozco, Science Bob and Lala. Did I say Tom Whitmore? Yeah, I think I said Tom Whitmore. The entire SOR team. Hey, Cat the Kit. How are you, beautiful? Who else? We might have Dr. Michael Masters. Jim Goodall's coming. He's trying to bring Michael Schratt with him. That's just who we have coming so far. Oh, Merle is coming. Merle is going to be there. We may have a few more paranormal investigators. I believe Carter Bouchard is coming. And we're going to see if we get any more Bigfooters there. Jessica Jones is going to be there. I'm going to be there. Sweet Robbie G is going to be there. Terry Hall and his lovely mustache are going to be there. The mustache charges, I believe, $7 a photo. Hi, Stephanie Jackson. How are you? Yeah. Telling you guys, we have a better lineup than most conferences, and all these people are paying their way to come hang out with you guys. It's a special, special moment that I hope you guys take real advantage of, because that's what it's about. They're doing that all for you guys, because you guys, as fans of SOR, okay, they know the value of you. You are the people buying their books. You are the people who are supporting them on radio shows. Everything. Why am I killing you there, T-Bone? It's supposed to be a good time. Oh, yes, Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby. I'm still a while away. So the Canadian system works much different than the American system. So I'll go for what they call my core this weekend, which is basically learning how to tell species of animals apart and how what you can hunt for them and how to hunt for them. So that's this weekend. And then in 2 weeks' time, I have to take my actual firearms course, which is called the PAL. And then if I pass the PAL and the core, I can then I then have to wait for my application to be approved by the Canadian government, which can take anywhere from mere weeks up to 6, 8 months, 9 months for them to send me my little badge that says I'm legally allowed to carry firearms. Up here in Canada, handguns are banned. So it's going to be shotguns and or rifles, and that's it. All right, guys, it's that time of the night where I got to say goodnight. Thank you to T-Bone with a hat trick. Thank you to Monkey Man, Vaughn Patrick, Pam H, Pix, Dry Toast, and W. Decker, Deb, Lee ×2, and Mama Catherine for the great super chats. I will be back on Monday where my guest will be Barry Strom. We're going to be channeling spirits. Channeling spirits. Yeah. So make sure you come check those out. And it's going to be a good week next week. So, yeah, let's have a go at it. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.